Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Screen Chronos. I'm Steve. With me, as always, is Jar Jar Colby, and today we are talking about season 1 of Ashoka, also known as Ahsoka, and
or more formally known as Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. And
yes,
so yeah, we're going to be giving our spoiler-free review and getting into a spoiler discussion. We'll discuss some ending Easter eggs, give our thoughts, best moments, best bro moments, things like that. But so spoiler freeze, we're going to start out with. If you want to skip to the spoiler section, it's in the time description below. We're going to give you thoughts of the show and our score. Colby, tell us some stuff.
First and foremost, this show to me was awesome. I loved it.
I did too.
I didn't really have super high expectations going into it. I really wasn't sure what it was going to offer, and it absolutely exceeded expectations. It gave me so much more than I could have ever asked for, really, because it goes into a lot of deep Star Wars and a little bit of unexplored Star Wars lore and content. And they go pretty deep into that for a show. So that's really exciting for big Star Wars fans like us.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if a more neutral Star Wars fan, maybe someone who likes it but doesn't love it, would be as into it. But man, it's like thank you guys for giving us this a lot of fan service. And by the way, if you're thinking about watching it, highly recommend going back and watching definitely Rebels, or at least go and get some recaps of Rebels, because it really helps. And there are some callbacks to Clone Wars as well, which you should watch anyway because they're fantastic shows. But they definitely will help you understand some concepts in Ahsoka. Steve, what did you think, man?
I love the show. I mean, the music was great. I thought at first the acting was a little stiff, but there's some characters that are good the whole time, and I kind of wonder if some of the direction, you're supposed to be stoic and very Jedi and poised, and but eventually it felt like there was more emotion and expression, and it got better. The cinematography for it, the directing, editing was all great. It all felt like very movie. I really it felt a lot of times, and it felt like this with the lightsaber battles too. Kind of like how the episode from season 2 of The Mandalorian, where Ahsoka first appears in live action. It felt kind of like that, where it's a lot of wide still shots in really cool places, with very sort of samurai moves, cool music, sometimes just silent though, no music. And it felt like the whole season was that. And so I really loved that.
I think the attention to detail was very impressive to me.
Yeah,
we can talk more in the spoiler part.
This was the show.
A lot of just little things that really spoke to me as a Star Wars fan that I appreciated them doing.
This
really cool.
This felt like there was a lot of like genuine love. Someone who loves Star Wars did this. Dave Filoni ran this. The guy who did the Clone Wars is like a close friend.
Has he ever let us down? Really?
The first few episodes of that final season of Clone Wars, not the first few, but whatever ones that were like,
that's right,
Ahsoka and the twins. Oh my God, that was the worst bit.
But he did deliver by the end. He did deliver at the end of that season.
Deliver by the end, though. And I mean, he's involved in The Mandalorian now, live action stuff. So pretty much everything he's involved with. I mean, he knows what the fans would like, even if it's not something we're just like, well, we want this. He'll give you something like that, but it's the better version of subverting expectations that Rian Johnson tried and failed with. Like you said, there's a lot of cool things.
Subverting it, but not changing the fabric of Star Wars,
I think
not
anyone
changing
who is,
that Star Wars DNA.
Yeah, because it's tough to nail. Like a lot of Star Wars fans are like, well, what are you a fan of? You're like a Star Wars fan. And there's some people like, well, I only like the originals. Some people only like the prequels. I don't know anyone who just likes the sequels. But I'm sure maybe there is. But a lot of it is, if you just grow up with it, there's the movies and there's things you speculate with friends and video games, and there's so much to Star Wars. So I just feel as though this show has a pulse on whatever that key thing is, and it does it well. I wish this is the show that I wish Obi-Wan made me feel like the entire time.
Dude, well put. Well put. Obi-Wan gave us some fan service sprinkled with a bunch of bullshit, but
yes.
I hate to say it. I hate to say it. If you want to hear us debate more on that, you can go to our talk on Obi-Wan, and we have a whole thing on that. But anyway,
what are some bad things though from this show?
Well, first of all, before I get into bad things. Yeah, before we get into bad things, let me just talk about one more fantastic thing. And if you're debating watching this show, and you're a huge Star Wars fan, let me tell you, there's some kind of cool lightsaber action in every single episode, whether it's training, whether it's a straight on duel, whether it's a freaking storming of a ship. There is so much cool lightsaber stuff. So if you like lightsaber stuff, this is the show for you, because they didn't shy away from it. They're just like, oh, what do fans want? They want to see more lightsabers? Okay, let's give them a ton of it. And it was great. So anyway, bad things about the show. Well, not a lot comes to mind, to be quite honest. You could say, the acting was stiff, like you said, at times. I will say there's a time, for the most part, Rosario Dawson does an awesome job with the lightsaber stuff, but I will say she looks a little bit slow in some episodes with her moves. As smooth as they look, I kind of wish they maybe sped it up somehow a couple times. And I'm thinking specifically of a time, this isn't a spoiler, but when she's trying to deflect blasters, it looked pretty clunky to me. And now, listen, I'm getting real nitpicky with this, because it certainly does not ruin the show by any stretch. But that was, when I was watching, that was kind of one of the only things I was like, they probably could have done that better. But that's really not a ton of flaws for me in this show. What about you?
It's like I said, some of it felt early on really stiff. It felt like there was a lot of, everyone just was crossing their arms. Sabine was doing it. It seemed like it was like an Ahsoka thing, because even when they went to, there's a moment where they show her when she's younger, and there she's like crossing her arms, looking out. So I don't know if that was like a character thing they're trying to give her. That's something
she picked up from Anakin, when she was being trained by Anakin.
Yeah, I guess. And but to me, it just felt like there's a lot of scenes where, if I was to be in person talking to you like this, it's either going to seem like I'm confrontational with you, or I'm like not interested. So there was a lot of scenes where, like, especially early on, where her and Sabine are talking to each other and they both have their arms crossed, and I'm just like, and I get too, they're sort of unsure about each other, but it just seems like the whole scene just seems less interesting to me. I don't know how to say it. And but that seems to go away. It doesn't seem like Sabine keeps doing that. And then
think
Ahsoka,
there's like a connection they need to form again too.
Yeah, but
maybe there's.
It just felt really sort of like stiff at first, like like how some people complain about the prequels. Some of the acting is kind of stiff. It's kind of how this started out. I was like, this is kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
But that, and then too, I mean, I've watched all this Star Wars stuff, and like you said, it relies on, you have to, if Ahsoka is a character that came from the show The Clone Wars, and though everyone pretty much knows about her, if you're someone that just knows the movies or the live action stuff that's been out so far in Disney Plus, even if you've seen Mandalorian, you might be like, who the hell is that orange lady? And why is she supposed to be so important? But you have to know, all of that sort of setup. And she was in Rebels. Oh, and like I said, she was in Mandalorian. And then I kept thinking, she was in Mandalorian more. But no, she was in Boba Fett, which really became Mandalorian season 2.5. And then this. So, that's the only other sort of downside is,
you have to it's a lot of things you got to get caught up on if you truly want to understand the depths of the show. And it's interesting because I have a coworker right now that I was telling that Ahsoka's awesome. He's a big Star Wars fan. You got to watch it. And he's like, okay, what do I need to watch first? I was like, well, you've seen Rebels. He said, no, no. I was like, oh, okay, well, you should probably watch Rebels, or at least if you don't want to watch all of Rebels, which I think you should because it's a pretty solid show, um, you got to go get a recap because they just kind of throw you in with these characters you're supposed to already know, like Sabine and Hera, and obviously Ahsoka is in Rebels later on. So Ezra. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't say Ezra yet.
Cut Ezra.
Okay.
But you'll need to know character. Yeah, you'll
yeah.
need to know characters
There's a
from
lot of things you need.
Clone Wars.
So anyway,
Rebels.
I kind of like. He's like, you start Ahsoka yet? He's like, no, I'm still working through Rebels. Like, oh man, that is a long way to go just to understand this show. So there is online. There's guides to like the most important episodes you need to watch. So if you are trying to get caught up on it and don't want to watch, there are filler episodes in Rebels. There's episodes that don't really matter to the overarching story. They're just fun adventures. But
and she's not in the whole show. But
and Ahsoka's not. But again, the characters
still goes into this. Yeah,
Rebels. Like pretty much all the Rebel characters are in Ahsoka. So another big negative from this show that I don't know if you brought to my attention or somebody else did, Ahsoka has a training room and she,
yeah, that was
me. And she trains in this room and she's all over the floor with her dirty boots. And all of a sudden that turns into their table.
That's the table they eat off of.
They never put a tablecloth down.
Never anything. You never see them like spray it down.
Disgusting. Disgusting.
You know
what kind of space germs are on that table?
Space germs.
Oh, just
spacey coli.
So uncivilized. Okay, I think that's enough of non-spoiler talk. I say we get into the spoiler stuff now because
let's give it a score. What's the
score
before we get into our spoiler discussion here?
Okay. Who's first?
I'll go first. I'm going to give it a 9.
I'm right there with you, brother.
I choose to live.
There's hope for you yet.
Where Ahsoka, there's I don't think there was a bad episode. Pretty sure there wasn't.
Yeah. This is kind of reminds me of The Last Kingdom in the sense, like you said, every episode has some sort of cool action in it. The plot's interesting to me. There's fan service in this, but it's not the substance of it. Like the Obi-Wan show, without the fan service, it's a shit show. And this show, if you were to just take out some of the, I don't want to spoil it yet, but some of the cool fan service things that happen, it's still a good show.
Totally.
But now we're going to get into some spoiler talks about it. So spoiler alert, everyone. I already know what we're going to talk about first.
Yes.
Anakin.
It's Miss Anakin freaking Skywalker. Not only, by the way, Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader, but not only Anakin Skywalker, Anakin, how we left him in episode 3, which is our favorite movie.
Yes.
They de-aged Hayden Christensen. They brought him back. And they're in a very critical scene.
Too.
De-aged, yeah, they finally figured it out, I think.
Yeah. I
again, Hayden Christensen's not nearly as old as Mark Hamill was to de-age him to look down to, so I think it's a little easier probably with how Hayden Christensen looks now.
Yeah.
Like he's not that old. He's in his 40s.
Yeah, he's not that old, but honestly, when I saw him in this, I could tell he looks kind of older, but nothing that made me oh, he looks so much different from Revenge of the Sith. But then I was watching an interview with him and he has more wrinkles. He just, my face at 30 doesn't look like it did at 20. It has a little more sag.
Definitely not.
By the way, for my 30th birthday, I watched Revenge of the Sith. That was great. The first time I saw it was 2005 in the theaters, and that was that's the theater experience that lives in my head forever. Just the
oh my god, yeah,
that was amazing. and I was like,
I'll never forget that.
11 or 12, I think, in 2005. Yeah,
These are the things that made us fall in love with movies and shows
yeah,
now,
yeah,
things like that.
stuff like that.
Episode 3, man.
But he
Oh,
looked good, and
incredible.
he looked good in this. And it was just done well. It wasn't just Hayden Christensen's here, because it's going to make people watch the show. It was an awesome. I mean, that might have been kind of the idea, but he was done well in this. Like,
Yeah.
there's it's really about Ahsoka and putting her into his perspective as, like, she was a Jedi who was raised during the war. And, this is something like us major nerds, we know, we dig deep into the lore and everything. And, it's kind of the downfall of the Jedi wasn't just Darth Vader and Palpatine, but it was the fact that they were sort of so full of themselves and so in control that they had sort of let the dark side grow. And then, even as they're saying we're peacekeepers, they became generals in an army. And then, Anakin just did see, like, look, they're all saying they're peacekeepers and this and that, and they don't want power, but, like, they're gonna take power from him. And and it's so it kind of shows that's the environment she grew up in, versus like how Obi-Wan and Anakin did, where they grew up where even though the Jedi were doing those things I just said, it was still sort of like the typical, we keep the peace, we go here, we do this.
We're the good guys.
There's not a galaxy war going on. So it was useful for that. And then we get to see him, like, flash as Darth Vader, say some cool stuff.
Man. And it's like he's giving a posthumous, like, lesson to Ahsoka. I think we should probably pause and save some of this for later, because we're jumping ahead. I just wanted to jump on it early and mention it, because it's like it was some of the most mind-blowing scenes that I never expected in a Star Wars show like this, with Hayden Christensen coming back.
I mean, this is
I think if we talk too much about this scene now, it'll be confusing. So let's just back it up.
But that was probably my favorite scene from the whole show. The rest of it was great. If we took that stuff out, I would still love the show. But that was just great, because I'm a huge fan of Hayden Christensen's Anakin, and his fighting in this was great. They went back to the Clone Wars. It was
great.
It was an unexpected treat to watch as that episode came out.
Oh my God. I was just I can't wait to break this scene down a little bit later, because I've gone back and rewatched it a few times. It's just so awesome. I when I watched it the first time, I rewound it again to rewatch it.
So did I.
Fantastic. But let's back it up to the beginning of the series a little bit, because, and we got it back there. We start off in a pretty cool way, actually, kind of reminiscent of, I think, Vader coming onto a ship. Reminiscent of
like episode one.
Episode 1, when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan came off. It's actually an old Jedi, like, Republic
cruiser,
that goes on the ship. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Who are these people?
And it's even like the transmission or ID tag or whatever they're getting is saying it's Jedi,
Yeah.
And like, if you watch the trailer, you already know, like, it's definitely not Jedi,
No. But is it a Sith? And that's what we're going to find out here in a little bit. So they board the ship, and it's these two new characters, Baylan Skoll and
Shin Hati.
Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. Sorry, let me say this again. So there are these two new characters, Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, who, did you know this, that their names are the names of the wolves from Norse mythology?
Well, I looked this up. I knew Baylan Skoll's full name. I didn't know Shrin. I didn't know her last name was Hati. But yeah, that's Skoll and Hati. And if we talk to a Norse mythology expert too, If you want to listen
Yes,
to
an
that.
episode with him. Go check it out. Yeah.
But Skull and Hati are wolves, and I think Filoni's kind of like me. I think he's got a thing for wolves,
Oh, he totally
because
does.
there's these wolves helmets, these troopers for Plo Koon, which Plo Koon is his favorite Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
in the Clone Wars, and then there's that like spirit wolf in the final
Mm-hmm.
season of Rebels. Now here we are with some Norse mythology names. Yeah, Skull and Hati, and then Skull chases the sun, Hati chases the moon, and
Yeah.
eventually, when
And
Ragnarok comes, they eat it, and that signifies the world ending.
and by the way, later on when they're trying to get the coordinates or travel to they're uploading the coordinates basically to this planet that we're going to talk about later. There's like 9 like sections that are uploading, so that could be like the 9 realms of Norse mythology. There's
Oh.
9, and then also in the credits, I'm taking credit from one of the Star Wars. This is from one of the Star Wars breakdown episodes. It says Odin as one of like the planets, like how it goes through like the star chart on the credits. One of them spells Odin.
Well, no
And so
wonder
they're definitely
we like Filoni's stuff. He's a Norse myth nerd like us too, and he loves
Fucking
Star
awesome.
Wars. He's like us.
awesome. It's awesome.
I
Anyway,
didn't know
so in
that.
that episode 1, I love the way it starts because these two come on, and instead of just going and getting some refreshments in a room like Obi and Qui-Gon, they just start just going nuts, right? And it's pretty awesome because they're badass. Like Ray Stevenson plays Balin Skull, and I don't know much about him at this point, but all I do know is this guy can use the Force very, very well. He's doing things with the Force that I've not seen before, like the way he unlocks the door to get out Morgan Elsbeth.
Hmm.
And I don't know, he just kind of goes on a Vader-like storm through the
It
ship,
was very
which is cool.
reminiscent of the Vader hallway scene from Rogue One.
Mhm.
And Balin is definitely my favorite character from this season. Obviously I love Ahsoka too. Should be my second, but I don't know. I just love Balin. I just love the look. He's just this giant guy with a beard, and he is so like stoic, but he doesn't feel wooden. He's very calm.
Oh.
He's very sort of, I think we talked about this, very sort of reminiscent of like Qui-Gon. He's this big guy.
Totally.
You can tell he has, Qui-Gon had different opinions than the council. And, he doesn't seem like he hates Jedi at all. And there's moments throughout the show where he's like, oh, it's a shame we have to kill her. She's like the last like sort of Jedi. And,
Right.
And, his apprentice at one point asked him like, do you miss the Jedi? And this is already like turned into memes. His line here is like where he's like, I miss the idea of it.
Yeah.
But not the reality,
And they put the Obi-Wan show behind it. Yeah. He's cool, and he's on his own path. So a little bit about Balin. He was part of the Jedi Order, and he escaped the Purge. And I think we off the mic we had a discussion like, man, how many people actually did survive the Purge? It seems like an awful lot.
That's another sort of downside I've had from the Star Wars things. In I think it's this episode too. Sabine gets stabbed with a lightsaber. And then like the next episode, she's just fine. Like it's not even like a ouch.
Oh yeah.
And what did you say that it brought this up for me? You said
we're talking about Balin and about how the Jedi, how they so many survive the Purge.
Oh, that's right. So surviving the Purge, again, like some I'm thinking of Obi-Wan here. So maybe, like again, that girl, the girl, I forget her name, but the one who's the Inquisitor, I don't want to get too in the weeds with how annoying the Obi-Wan show was, but she got stabbed as a kid, and then again as an adult, both times by Darth Vader, Anakin. Survived both of those. And again, she survived the purge. We have Cal Kestis surviving the purge from the video games, which I assume is canon. I think it is canon. Who else do we have? We have the guy from Rebels. What's his name? The guy who
Kanan.
trained Ezra.
Kanan.
That's it, Kanan. How many?
Yeah.
How many?
I mean,
Jedi?
I guess Anakin didn't do that good a job.
Like really, but it is cool because in Episode 3, Obi-Wan and Yoda do go back to Coruscant, and they do change the message to try and get as many ways as they can. And I wonder if that was George Lucas like setting up, I don't know if I'll ever dig into this, but if I do this, at least we can always explain why maybe a handful of Jedi are still around.
And I think that's a great point. Yeah. So
and
more would have
Ahsoka survived the purge,
Right, but she wasn't in the order. She wasn't.
But they still were trying to kill her, if you remember that chip.
Yeah, true.
Like every clone trooper, that was an amazing scene. Like everyone was trying to kill her. Because originally, when we didn't have that season, I was like, well, that's why she's alive. No one even went after her. But everyone was trying to kill her. And that ship, the whole ship was trying to kill her.
Yeah. But listen, I'm not going to complain too much about
from
this.
lightsabers and deaths, to me, it's just like, is anyone dead? Like Darth Maul lived, that girl,
I know,
Inquisitor lived. Again, I'm glad Sabine didn't.
How come Qui-Gon didn't live? God damn it!
Qui-Gon got stabbed one time, in and out, and he's dead. And the thing is, I want that to happen. I don't want to keep bringing people back.
Right.
But it just, oh yeah. And then Rey, with Kylo Ren, she stabbed him and just healed him up. I just want lightsabers to mean something. If you kill someone with a lightsaber, you should be dead. And there's a whole.
I feel you. I was always a little annoyed even when they brought Maul back.
Me too.
Although it led to some fantastic story. Don't get me wrong. But at first I was a little annoyed. I was like, well, this takes away like Obi-Wan's thing. Obi-Wan was the Jedi who killed a Sith Lord. Like that was
the first one in forever. That's on your resume as a Jedi.
And I'm happy that they eventually did have him kill him again.
Yeah.
Like it did come full circle. But anyway, I complained, but at the same time, it led to amazing stuff in Clone Wars and in Rebels too, right?
But it just can't keep happening. I want lightsaber injuries to mean something.
Yeah.
And and again, I just don't want to have like a million people surviving the purge.
Right. I feel
I think we need to start stepping away from that in future shows. But anyway, though, we're talking about.
But they went, and
Galen.
by the way, his apprentice, she has a Padawan. Oh, fly in my face. His apprentice has a Padawan little braid that we see like all the Padawans have. So he like keeps some Jedi things. It's kind of interesting.
He likes the idea of it. That's what
he likes the idea of it, but I think he also knew how flawed it was. And I think Qui-Gon, like you mentioned, how similar he is to Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon might have gone down a path like him had he lived, because Qui-Gon was being influenced by his former master, Count Dooku, who also saw the flaws of the Jedi. Dooku obviously turned into a Sith. I don't know if Qui-Gon would have turned into a Sith, but I think he might have departed a little bit from the Jedi. And honestly, Ray Stevenson almost sounds like Qui-Gon sometimes. Like even his voice, the way he talks. I was like, it's like
I love him. It's character. Cool. He's awesome. It's so.
The very very sad thing. Ray Stevenson had passed away. It's sad, obviously, for many reasons. It's really sad because his character was amazing and left a lot to be had of really cool story for him. So obviously, what a performance to go out on for him. He was incredible. And really sad we're not going to see more of him.
Big guy. He's like 6'3". Just like he's not like a super muscular guy, but he's just like sort of a naturally large framed dude, and
Totally.
he's just like intimidating. Like he's just so much bigger than Ahsoka and everyone else around. You know.
Yeah,
I saw some
absolutely.
things about replacements for him, and like I think some of them are good, some of them are kind of bad, but one of them was two of them are from 300. The guy who was Gerard Butler's like second in command, the guy whose like son
Yeah,
got
yeah, yeah.
killed. If you look at
Yeah.
him now, I forget his name, but he's got short hair and it's white, and I'm just like, he looks pretty badass. He could look badass.
Cool.
Gerard Butler himself, which I would fucking love if they had Gerard Butler come in this. And
That'd be awesome.
oh, and they had Graham McTavish. I saw on the list, and doesn't have hair,
Uh,
but he'd be kind of interesting. I like Graham
he'd
McTavish.
be
I'd like to see him in Star
interesting.
Wars.
He'd be interesting.
I don't know if I'd want him as Balin, but I would love to see Graham McTavish in Star Wars. Who's from
He
Outlander?
was in. What was he also in recently? House of the Dragon, was it?
No, he's in The Witcher as.
Oh, The Witcher. The Witcher.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
he was in House of the Dragon. You're right.
He
was
was
a
in House
guard.
of the Dragon.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Was he in The Witcher too?
Yeah, he's in The Witcher. He is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dijkstra.
Okay.
Sort of a creepy political figure in the show.
Right.
And I'm having a slog getting through that show, but that's another thing. So anyway, though,
Anyway.
they show up.
So they show up and they take Morgan Elsbeth, who, by the way, is who Ahsoka had a duel with the awesome spear.
Yeah,
I think Morgan
2
had that
Mandalorian.
spear in season 2. So she turns out she's actually like a night sister, or like a descendant of them.
Yeah.
As well, which is crazy. But they take her. And they have this, I guess she hired them as mercenaries if she ever got caught, because Balin's like, yeah, like we got paid well for this or whatever. And they leave. And then we cut to Ahsoka. And I love the way Ahsoka's story starts in this, is like an Indiana Jones type scene.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
She's at this old planet. It's got old statues. It's definitely like got a connection to the Force of some kind, maybe an old maybe the witches, like I don't know, but it was definitely like an old, like ruinous type feel.
Very Indiana
and she goes,
Jones, very sort of like Fallen Order or Jedi Last Survivor. The first one.
Yeah, the video game.
Yeah, with Cal Kestis, the
Fallen
first
Order.
video game.
Fallen
Order. That's it.
Yeah, Fallen Order.
Like you're finding
Totally
cool
has that feel.
Jedi relic stuff and so many other like Jedi video game stuff that we haven't necessarily seen in movies, but now it's like, it's just that texture in the show. I love it.
Totally. And so she goes and she does a little lightsaber trick where she like spins the lightsabers with the Force around her to cut through and go down. And she does that in Clone Wars as well. As a Clone Wars, one of the shows, she does that at one point. So it's an old trick that she does. That was just a little cool Easter egg, right?
It's also a deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith where Obi-Wan and Anakin, they go back to back and they do that, and they go down and like they like, I think maybe they go underwater and there's but they see one of the Jedi Council women, the woman, whatever species Ahsoka is. They saw
Shock T.
That's it, Shock T. They see her get killed by Grievous, and they do that.
Oh,
which I'm just like, I wish that was in the movie.
Yeah. So that was cool. And she goes down and she finds this like ball that's on a platform that she like, this is definitely going to be booby trapped or something, or it's going to call out something, but she sees on the wall like 3 witches with like orbs. Okay, cool old Force stuff. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes this orb that's in the middle. We don't really know what it is yet. But she takes it and she comes back up and there's a freaking cool droid just standing there with its weapon, and it like just doesn't even budge. And it was pretty cool. And a couple more come out and she has to fight them off.
This is sort of, like that episode of Mando where she came in. It had a very sort of like samurai feel to it, where it's like, the standing, and which is, like the spaghetti westerns, the ones with like Clint Eastwood, are inspired by old samurai movies where they just sort of stand at each other and they draw their sword real quick and the fight's over like real quick. And that's sort of like how the gun duels came in those movies. And that's really sort of the feel of pretty much the whole show, but especially here, it just kind of digs into that. And like you said, I really like her technique in this and throughout the whole show. And but yeah, it's just every now and then it's just like, it kind of looks like you're kind of just slow,
going through the motions or something.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. But there are some fights where it doesn't seem like that. So I don't know if it's just some of them they weren't worked on as well or what, but generally that's how it feels. I mean, she probably fights better with lightsaber than I do, but
no doubt. I would say she looks good for most of the time, but there's definitely those instances where it looks like they could have at least reshot it or done some kind of camera trick to make it look better.
I would rather them keep it though like this than like speed it up unnaturally, because
not speed it up unnaturally. Just, I don't know. Like sometimes it just looks so slow. That it's just like there's no way that
technique looks good though.
Technique looked great. It looked great.
Still,
so anyway,
more enjoyable to watch than I think anything from the sequels, except
it's definitely better. Yeah, because she's got that like great, like really sleek technique that she learned from the Jedi Order. Like we always talk about how it does make sense that Rey and Luke wouldn't be that skilled with a lightsaber compared to like the Jedi who are in the Order practicing every day. And she still has those skills, which is really cool to see. And we find later, Ray Stevenson Balin has some of those skills, even though he's more brute force. Like he's got like that brutish force, though. Anyway, she manages to beat these droids, but they had self-destruct things built into them, so she has to run. And her droid that she's hanging out with is actually from Clone Wars. He is like the droid who knows everything about lightsabers.
He takes
he teaches
the kids too. I don't know if he takes them, but he works with the kids in Clone Wars and he takes them to like the caves or after they get their crystals from the caves. It was interesting. He was a character in this.
Yeah. And I think it's cool because he is obviously made by like the Jedi Order or whatever, or for them. And so in his wiring, it's like perfect Jedi code is the way. That's the way to go. And Ahsoka, if you know from Clone Wars, she went off on her own path. She is sort of becoming what we call a gray Jedi. Not quite Sith, not quite Jedi. And that's the idea is like, if you can use some of the dark powers of the Force, it'll make
or at
you
least sort of like their perspective instead of just saying
understand their perspective. Yeah.
Because it was kind of that self-limiting view that would sometimes make the Jedis hypocrites or just not effective in dealing in a situation, because like, well, we can't do anything that would be bad in any way. And to do that, it kind of led to, again, them becoming then the generals of this army and then losing sight on the fact that they were peacekeepers in this war that's really just a meaningless war between endless troops, No,
totally.
But but again too, it's sort of that lineage from Dooku that we got to see in Tales of the Jedi, where Dooku was someone who didn't really want to leave the Jedi Order, but he was frustrated with things, and his apprentice was Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon was we saw was a little bit different, and then he raised Obi-Wan, who was, I would say, is probably the straightest and narrow, but then his Padawan Anakin was definitely that deviant from the as far as you can go. And then his apprentice was Ahsoka. So she got to see there was sort of that lineage, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And it's just a question of how is Ahsoka going to manifest it, as she tampers with more of these dark sides of the Force, which we do see a little bit of when she battles. She definitely uses techniques the Jedi would not have taught her. For example, later on, she like picks up one of the bad guys shooting at her and like puts him directly in the path of another blast fire, like a blaster fire, and kills him like that. And it's like, okay, that's pretty sweet, but I don't think Yoda would be teaching the younglings that move. Um, so anyway, let's get back to the story a little bit here because, so she gets away. Ahsoka manages to get away, and we end up meeting again. Sabine at Lothal, which is that planet that like a lot of Rebels, the show Rebels takes place on Lothal.
It was sort of their home base there.
It was like their home base, and Sabine's actually living in like Ezra's old little tower that he used to
And
live
let
in,
me
too.
talk about this. So, they're having this sort of like ceremony to commemorate the heroes of Lothal, and there's the cool mural that we saw at the end of Rebels is there.
And it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like they're drawn in the show as if they're the cartoons, which I thought was cool. It's like, oh, sweet.
That is pretty cool. And like it's clear that they had like her scheduled to come out for this. So to me, that says she agreed to come out and speak to everyone, because the whole thing was like just him introducing Sabine to talk to everyone. So that means it's not like they were just like, we're going to put on a thing and Sabine's going to show up when we ask her to. No, like to me, it says she knew about it and agreed to it at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And then, then they're like, well, where is she? And she's just driving a motorcycle. She's like, look how cool I am driving my motorcycle. And it's like,
skipping, I'm playing hooky.
You agreed to this though. Like, why are you acting like, and and they're trying to show like, oh, she's so sad that all of her friends are dead and gone and blah, blah, blah. But it's like you agreed to this. Like, and now you're like ditching on the thing that was solely about you and you agreed to.
No,
they're trying to show,
exactly.
she's tough and emotionally damaged and all that. But I was kind of, this is like, again, like the first episode, I was like, I don't know about this show. Like it just seemed kind of dumb to me. Like just to show like she's tough and damaged and stuff, Maybe it's just because I've seen that like so many times where like they're like, look at the hero, they're a bad boy, bad girl. They're driving their motorcycle and they're not listening to their superiors. Look how bad they are.
Yeah. But when they do get back and she's at her home, you see some of the things in her place. She sees a hologram from Ezra, who basically is saying like he knew he wasn't going to come back. In Rebels, he knew he was basically saying goodbye to her. Basically saying, I'm not going to be with you anymore, but like you can do this, whatever. And also you see her Mandalorian gear sort of packed away off to the side. She hasn't used it in a long time, it looks like. But also don't forget, this is an important thread. They were trying to train her to be a Jedi. She even trained a little bit with a dark saber, or at least to use a lightsaber.
Yeah, they never trained her in the Force though in Rebels, which was one thing that I'm just like, is that like a retcon, or they just I don't know, but yeah, that was something I was like, oh, she has the Force? Like we've never ever talked about this before.
And they use the Force in the show, obviously. That she has the Force, but they do allude to her being pretty weak with it a lot. She's not really good with it. They're trying to get it out of her. They're trying to get her to understand it more. There's a great training scene later on with, by the way, I love that Ahsoka's got like a training studio, right? And
I want one.
I
want one of those.
Not only does she practice, so she has Sabine practice, and she was keeping her skills sharp all the time. She's got all these lightsabers. She's got all the freaking utensils you could use to make yourself better, like the droid that shoots at you. You got the blind face shield, and the droid is also, I think, made for training too. And I don't know if you noticed this, but when they're training with Sabine and they're having him with 4 arms and it's just like lights as lightsabers and she's practicing moves through them, it shows the accuracy through the blades. Like some of them are like lit different ways to show like which ones were the right hit. And it's like, oh, that's so freaking awesome.
That was pretty sweet. And very, very cool. Like a Grievous arm thing too that he did.
Oh yeah, with 4 arms. Yeah. But like, I don't know, that little detail like that, like they were checking how accurate her swipes were there. That was just love that stuff. And by the way, there's a hologram, an old hologram of Anakin training Ahsoka. It's like it's from before, she just kept it and she uses it to train. And that's like, oh, man,
Very cool.
that I need one of those, man.
Me too.
If
I just
had
want
an Anakin hologram, like I'd be using that every day.
my Hayden Christensen hologram. Oh yeah, that would be like my morning routine.
You should do that. You
Steve,
should just.
now I know it'll be hard for you as going as a physical therapist today. I
So that
loved
was
all
cool.
just the Jedi like essence throughout the show. It's just
Yeah.
that's why I love the Fallen Order game and like KOTOR and just that Jedi like essence was just
And they
throughout
even
the whole
have
thing.
they even have Sabine later training with the blind helmet on, which is cool. By the way, don't forget Kanan was blind in Rebels. He was blinded, and he had to learn again how to fight being without his eyes. So that was cool.
Speaking of Kanan, him and Hera, I remember the ending of Rebels. She had a child with like green hair, and I'm like, is that supposed to be her and Kanan's baby? Because like it always seemed like they were romantic in the show,
Yeah.
but maybe because it was a kid show, like I don't think they ever showed them kiss or anything. But apparently he got her knocked up before he died because that is an interspecies child she has, which I did not know was possible. Have we ever seen this in Star Wars? Have we ever heard about this? Like we've seen interspecies couples, I think, throughout like different things, but I don't know if I've ever seen like what is it then? Like because she's a Twi'lek.
I feel like we would
human.
have somewhere, right?
I don't know. But it's a Twi'lek human baby boy, and that's pretty interesting.
I guess it was compatible reproductively.
Yeah. What does that mean?
I doubt all these species are compatible with each other with their reproductive systems, right?
Yeah, but because if they were like as much as everyone interacts, like I feel like we'd see many more like hybrids, or maybe that's like why we see so many random alien species because there are so many hybrids. I don't know, but what does it mean?
It's definitely Kanan's kid, and he wears Kanan's shoulder guard.
Yeah,
on his right shoulder. So it's like it's Kanan's kid right there. Cool, very cool. And not only do we get Hera and we get all these other rebels, but we get freaking Chopper. We get Chopper, baby.
Yeah, Chopper's great.
Chopper, one of the weirdest droids of them all. I always thought.
I like him. He's sassy.
I like him too, but he's always very quirky. He's got an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
He's got probably more personality than most droids.
Yes.
And he has a pretty sweet scene. So basically, they how did the orb get to how does the orb get to
Ahsoka had it. She shows it to Sabine, who of course like just leaves Sabine alone and like, this is the map to Thrawn. And if you remember, that's why she went after Morgan Elsbeth in season 2 of Mando. She wanted to find Thrawn. Thrawn. And so that orb, but the orb then, if you remember, at the end of Rebels, Ezra, who was the main character, the young Jedi being trained by Kanan, he was fighting with Thrawn in that final battle. Yep. And those giant space whales, I forget what they're called, like Purgles or something like that.
Purgle, I think a Purgle. Yeah.
But they come and wrap around like the ship that they're dueling in, and they can like hyper space travel, so travels faster than the speed of light.
That's how they travel. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they blast away with the two of them. So kind of Ezra sort of sacrificed himself to save the planet. And so anyway, though, a map to Thrawn for Sabine means a map to Ezra, who she misses.
Ezra, right.
And I wonder if there's anything romantic there. I feel like everything in Star Wars, besides like Han and Leia, and then Padme and Anakin, I feel like no one ever has like a direct like we see a romance, we see people kiss. Like I feel like everything's like, don't show kissing, don't allude to sex, just show a baby. No baby bump, just show a baby when the show's over,
Right.
It's
yeah.
I kind of wonder if they have some romantic, or if it's just they
With
play
how
it safe
bad
and-
she wants to go get him, it's it seems strong. So she takes the orb, she leaves with it, she goes back to her tower house, and guess who else goes there is Shinhaki.
who I like her character. She's creepy.
Yes, she's
with the
creepy
eyes.
and she's creepy, but she's still she can tell she's skilled, but
Mhm.
she's still learning. You can tell she is definitely under the influence of her master, right?
She's definitely
Which leaves her
dark side, but again, just like her master, like she's not like Sith. She's not like I need to serve the dark side. It's just she uses the dark side more often
of the Force. Yeah,
But she's just the mercenary. It's not like
it's
she's
just mercenaries.
I want to conquer the galaxy and be the next Sith Lord kind of thing going on.
And this is where she comes in and basically remember Sabine has Ezra's lightsaber, the green one, right? Is that Ezra's or is that her own?
That's Ezra's, yeah.
It's Ezra. And
I'm just being like
Crossing arms.
Ahsoka. I caught myself
And,
doing this, and I was like, "This is kind of hypocritical." I'm doing this when I was.
yes, it is.
Now I'm
yes.
just gonna do it intentionally.
But she tries to fight Shin, but Shin just dominates because
Just kicks
Sabine's
her
not that
ass.
good, and she stabs her, which
And
is like
Shin's
okay,
probably a dominatrix
should
too,
work.
don't you think? Don't you think?
I would think so.
I think she's into
Yeah.
some S&M. That's what. So many fans are
But
like
she-
into her. You're like, I'm
Really?
not like sexually into her. I'm not saying like,
Are you serious?
bad
That's
or
the
anything.
thing.
but I see tons of memes of just like people like, I watch Star Wars for the plot, and it's just like all pictures of her, or just like
Seriously, I haven't seen that yet.
like memes like of a guy like pointing to her picture and just like this is the most perfect thing. Like
Oh, really?
it seems like there's a lot of guys thirsting for her.
Anyway, well, I know she's a cool character, but
I wonder what that
the,
says.
The,
She's
the
scary.
actress does a great job with her.
Oh yeah, I like her.
It's Ivana Sakno. I don't know
Sakmo?
that's how you say it. Sakno.
Sakmo?
So she's really good. Anyway,
At Sakmo?
so she wins. She takes the orb, but how are they going to find the orb again? They have to go out in the ship, right, with Chopper. Is this the point with Chopper and the tracking device?
Yes.
Yeah, and Chopper has a sweet spins his body around to throw it on while the ship goes upside down. So that was pretty cool because Chopper did do more things like that than compared to other droids, probably because he has little arms.
I know.
Um,
You know what? That design was actually one of the original designs for R2D2 that they didn't use.
that's cool. That's cool.
So now they
No one can beat R2. Let's be honest. No droid can ever top R2. R2 is the greatest of all time.
hands down, he's
And-
been through everything. He's been through everything. C3PO too, even though he's kind of annoying, has
Yeah.
been through everything.
Who, by the way, later on, it's not super important to the story. C3PO shows up in a meeting later on, and it's freaking awesome.
You know, the actor who played him back in the original movies has played him in every appearance, and the guy's in his 70s now, and it's
He
still
played him in this too.
He played him in this. He played him.
Oh
in the
yeah,
Clone
Anthony
Wars.
Daniels.
Yeah.
Yes,
Everything.
that's awesome. That is
Everything he's done. That's awesome.
I wonder if he's one of the only actors to have been in freaking everything.
I think.
Ooh,
uh,
that's interesting.
I think Mark Hamill's done. Well, Mark Hamill hasn't been in the video games. Video games of Luke has been someone else, I think.
Hmm.
But he was on set for the Mandalorian and stuff, even though the face was bad. He
Yeah,
was. They did that, and they had a double and things like that.
but he wasn't in the prequels all the time. I think he did.
No,
make
you're
a
right.
cameo
Oh yeah,
as
so
another
he wasn't in
character.
every movie then. Yeah, you're right. He wasn't in every movie.
C-3PO was, right?
Yeah, C3PO was in every movie.
C-3PO was in Clone Wars. I don't know if he voiced him in Clone Wars, but he was
He
in
did.
Rebels too, I think.
He did both.
So
Yep.
oh,
Diff-
we'll have to look this up later if he was the only one who was in everything. For
I don't
most
know if he was
everything.
in Mando, but
True,
first of all,
true.
he was in every movie. And secondly, anytime C3PO has been shown in like any major show or movie, it's him voicing him or acting him.
Fantastic. So anyway, by the way, we had in that episode we had a cool lightsaber duel, even though we had a ton of cool lightsaber stuff. You had the duel at the end, you had them coming on the ship, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, baby. You get so much more. That's just episode 1. So anyway, we'll probably not spend as much time on every episode, but yeah.
Sabine and Scree or whatever, the apprentice of Balin, their lightsaber fight, they look good. I don't know if they look pretty quick. I don't know if they like had more doubles throughout their fight or something like that. But their fights look pretty quick. I'll say.
Yeah, and look, I guess you could make the argument that Shin Hati should be probably more skilled than like Rey, because she had a master who was directly from the temple, right?
And a good director too. You know, and a good show director.
Yeah. So anyway, they get this map to Morgan Elsbeth, and they go to a planet called hold on, this is a nice little Easter egg as well. It's called Ceto, which I think is in Greek it means sea, which is this thing is at like the sea, and Cetus means whale.
Oh.
And so they're on this planet, so it's a little bit of a cool little wordplay there. And this planet is like really close to the pathway of the whales. The whales have this like migratory path, this life path that they go on through the universe, and you can like hear them from this planet. And I really love how Star Wars uses like stone ring circles, because it's just like there's so many on Earth that like we don't know what they were used for. Obviously, probably not to connect maps to other worlds, but maybe we don't know why they were used.
Maybe, dude, I don't know. Maybe it was an ancient civilization that was here before we ever were, and they used stones.
Yeah. But I love it. Just gives you like, oh man, like these are old. You know, there's like an old civilization used these, and I think like the music, even like when they walk up to them, sounds like old and mythical, and it's really really cool. And they use this like stone circle. They put the orb in it and creates like a dome map through which it like points up through one, and it basically is giving them the coordinates to where Thrawn is. And they just need to upload that to Google Drive. And
another thing too, I guess a little complaint here is maybe they explained it and I missed it. Someone can let me know. But what is like? How is there a map to Thrawn? Like, Thrawn was taken away
this too
randomly.
Well, no. I don't think it's no. It's not a map to Thrawn. I don't think it's a map.
I think that's what everyone's calling it though, because that's
because it is. But I think it was originally an old map to where the whales went. Do you know? What I mean? So they just because I think it was. Yeah, I think they know that the whales took him, right?
Yeah.
And they've heard the lore that this old civilization had mapped out where the whales go. And I think they knew that. So they're like, oh, if we can find this will take us to where the whales took Thrawn.
That was also one of my early pathway. But never mind.
It's like an introduced lore. Like I don't think we've had it before. We've had the whales before. We had the whales in Mando even. We had the whales, obviously, in the cartoon shows, but the pathway to the planet's called Peridia is like a new lore introduced into this show, and that's why they looked for this orb. Does that make sense, right? Like, yeah. And they just think that this is where Thrawn probably is because the whales, because they don't like. Apparently, there's like no other way to follow the whales. The universe. They go so freaking far into the universe. They go through this thing called the void, which Balin refers to at one point. Like he says to her, these coordinates better be exact because even if they're a little off, we'll be lost in the void forever. So there's like a void they have to go through or something.
where there's
through
just no
hyperspace,
space. Wow.
which is kind of
Cool.
trippy to think about. I don't really get it. I thought space was no space. Wait, no, space is just space. No space. I'm confused.
Space is
Anyway,
nothing, but
space is weird, man.
but nothing is in the universe. So
so
the
if
universe,
nothing
so
is in the
if
universe,
you left the universe, you might be in the void. I guess. I don't know.
it's man, but anyway, there's a void that they don't want to get caught into. Balin knows about it. But that's how distant this place is. Like it is, you can't just drive there, right? You have got to there's no bridge that's going to take you there.
Google
But,
Maps not going to get you there.
That's why like they have those like ring hyper space rings that we see Obi-Wan use in episode 3 and
2.
We see it multiple times throughout. But yeah, this one is like got 7 different engines on it, so it's huge. So it's like bigger than any one we've ever seen before, and it's basically supposed to be strong enough to take them all the way to where the whales go,
Another galaxy.
to another galaxy. And so yeah,
Pretty cool.
so
I
that's
don't
what
know
they're
if we've
doing.
ever talked about. I don't know if we've ever talked about another galaxy like in Star Wars. Star Wars has always been another galaxy other than ours.
Far, far away.
And I don't know if we've ever talked about like going to another galaxy, which is while we're in Star Wars. So that theoretically,
did you see the news yesterday that and again, this is on Instagram and I don't exactly know what this means, that I think NASA has picked up a radio signal from 8 billion years ago from a distant galaxy.
what?
Dude, that's
Wow.
dude, it's got to be from Star Wars because George Lucas said in a galaxy a long time ago, far, far away, right? Like that was 8 billion years ago. So that's a long time ago.
What if Star Wars is like George Lucas receiving a signal from this other galaxy, and like
And he just like was the only one on Earth to get it, and he's just telling the story.
he's just
Okay, that's it. Star Wars is real, everyone. It's real. It's real.
Wow. I did not
Anyway,
know. About
I don't
that.
know.
That's
I don't
pretty
know what
sweet.
that means. If they just like heard a sound, I don't really don't know. So go read for yourself what that was,
Okay.
everyone, because I don't know exactly. But anyway, where were we? We were talking about
Whales.
they're trying to get to Thrawn. We're talking about whales.
Did you know
Um,
killer whales will will attack
Yeah.
little humpback whales, like basically like a pack of wolves? And
yeah.
like
Well, and now they're starting to attack humans.
which ones? Killer whales?
Killer whales. They're starting to. There's been a few incidents over the last couple. They like never attacked humans before, like almost never, and all of a sudden now they're starting to,
Mother,
like gangs of whales.
that's awesome. Mother Nature, baby, she's coming for you.
She's coming for us all. But I don't think those whales can hyper travel.
Like Shamook. You don't think
I'll have to
Shamook
watch
can?
the National Geographic again.
I've always just assumed he could.
I thought they could, but I don't know. Anyway, so where like who was doing all of this? Like who was putting these stones up, and who was looking into the whale travel so long ago in the Star Wars universe? And I know one theory is that it was the Rakuten people
Oh, that's from
who
KOTOR.
apparently, yes, absolutely. But they apparently were the first ones who invented hyperspeed to be able to travel like that. And they used it, basically derived that power from the whales somehow.
Cool.
And so that's why they sort of worshipped, or I don't know if they worshipped them, but they're a big part of their culture, I think. And they used that power to like take over the universe as much as they could. And they were
Mhm.
like ruthless, I think.
Yeah. If you've ever
Yeah.
played Knights of the Old Republic, it's a video game, 2 video games, and then there's a MMO called The Old Republic, which is set thousands of years before the first Phantom Menace movie. And you run into the Rakatan people there, and they were the people that also they made the Star Forge, which is the thing in that game.
Mhm.
And I just love that, all of that awesome stuff that all of us Star Wars nerds loved Disney was like, nope, Legends. And now Filoni just keeps like bringing it back. Like Thrawn was in Legends. He's like, nope,
Canon.
he's in Rep Canon. Canon. Fine, you want to
Canon
let me in
and-
charge? Canon.
Canon. Everything's no, and it's cool because they actually refer to the Rakuten people. Yeah. Is it an Andor or is it in Boba Fett? I can't remember. But they talk about like, oh, this is a relic from the Rakuten, civilization or whatever. And so it's canon. Like they've mentioned it in the show in these series. So it's
Very
happened.
cool.
So very, very cool. And so like
Darth
that's
Revan,
why
baby,
these things
come
are set up. Come on.
And the Zepho too.
Yeah.
Remember the Zepho from Fallen Order? They're an ancient civilization, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, though.
So it's cool. I love that they're getting into that old. And again, this would mean nothing to like a lay Star Wars fan who's not so into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just
It would just be,
real
oh,
lay
okay.
fan.
And yeah, so that's pretty cool. And Ahsoka and Sabine, they go to this planet to try to track them down before they go to get Thrawn, because they are basically saying to themselves, well, if Thrawn comes back, like that's not good. That is bad. That's going to be like the end of civilization as we know it if he comes back.
Well, yeah, if you remember it, right now at the point where we're after the episode 6 where Luke beat Darth Vader and the Empire destroyed, and before Rey and Kylo Ren and everything in the sequel trilogy where the Resistance is there. Basically, like another Empire comes back and beats the New Republic that's formed. So we're between that time change, and it seems like the Mandalorian is setting up, or it is pretty much set up. It's showing a lot of people who are remnants from the Empire coming back, and now we're alluding to Thrawn, who is this amazing Empire admiral, and if they bring him back, it's just more war again, and that's it's a cool way to sort of show how the Resistance came up, because that was one thing I have to say from the sequels. I was just like we beat the Empire, and it came back 10 years later. Just all of them came right back, and they
like
won
a ton of them
again,
like stronger than ever.
Like it seems like the galaxy wants an empire. Like it just seems like it's what they want. It seems like they want to have like this power that just destroys them all. I don't know.
And it's
but that's the
so anyway. There's that.
And
that's
Thrawn.
the point where we're at, and so they're trying to stop that from happening. But Sabine is sort of in this between stage where, like, yeah, she doesn't want them to be able to bring Thrawn back, but she also wants to go find Ezra. And that's going to become really critical later on here when, they land on the planet. I think like they sense them. And so then they go and they attack. The girl attacks with some Inquisitors. There's a cool Inquisitor. And by the way, the Inquisitor attacked Ahsoka earlier when they went to some plant where there were old like Imperials working at the plant, and they found that kind of sketchy.
Yeah, that was a cool scene too.
Yeah. And he threw his lightsaber at her. That was sweet.
That was a pretty good battle. And really,
and she just moved a second, and she knew exactly where it was going to go, and it just missed her by an inch. That was sick. He's got I think he starts with one blade, then he turns it into the double, and just classic. I think what's his name, Marok. I think. And he looks like a knight, a medieval black knight, and he looks great. Kind of looks like one from Rebels who died with the helmet, but I think he's different. And
he also kind of looks like if you played the video game The Force Unleashed, there's an ending where the main character, if you choose the dark side, you kill Darth Vader and you replace him as the Emperor's apprentice. And he redoes him in like this helmet and garb. And he kind of looks like that even.
Yeah. So yeah. Really cool little duel right there. Again, just so much lightsaber stuff. And then we get another cool lightsaber battle by the ship where the Inquisitor's there. And Sabine, I can't, and this is when Ahsoka is also helping fight. She like picks up some of the guys with blasters and like puts it in front using a little bit of that dark side. And when they kill the one guy, he like disintegrates or like into this like green smoke,
Oh yeah,
dust or something
the
with the screen.
Inquisitor with the helmet on.
So
yeah.
So was he just like something the witches were conjuring, or was he
Oh, that's a good point.
a night brother or something?
I was like,
so
why
really
did all that
weird.
smoke come out of him. Yeah,
You know, I don't think we got an exact explanation for that either. But
because
but they both kind of like when it happens, they kind of look at him like, huh? Like they didn't know either. What the frick was that?
yeah.
You know?
And like
But-
Balin and her, you know, they're real people and they seem like they have motives and everything. I was curious about him, you know. He's just like this
Yeah.
weird dark creature thing that's with them. Yeah. But
And
it was
what color do
sweet
you
how
think
she
their
did it.
lightsabers are?
Orange.
Because I'm a bit colorblind. They're orange, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they're not red. Like
Like the
there's
Sith.
something in between to show that to make sure they're not Sith. You know, they're certainly their own thing. So anyway, Ahsoka went to face Balin 1-on-1, right? 1v1, trying to take that orb away because I think Morgan had gone up to the ship, right?
Yeah.
And they were just hanging back. She's ready to go. She's ready to get out of there and go. As soon as it uploads. So the thing's uploading slowly. They got that dial up. You know, they got to up the Wi-Fi on that planet. And Ahsoka comes in to try to battle Balin. And, you know, Balin's got the upper hand most of the fight.
It was pretty sweet.
It was a great little duel.
And that's one thing I like about this too is her and him fight twice and he definitely beats her both times. The second time she doesn't get as thrashed as she was in this one, you know, and she gets away. But I like that he's not just some like easy to beat villain, you know, and no one feels like easy to beat that she fights. But
No, for sure.
like when she was fighting the other guy, you're just like, all right, she's better than the Inquisitor mascot. But I love
totally.
That's another reason why I just like him. I'm just like he's not someone that you just beat just because like you're the main character, you know.
When you think about them, like they were both trained in the Jedi arts at the Jedi Temple, so their skill level there should be good. I don't know who Balin's master would have been, but obviously Ahsoka had like the best master, the most skilled master of all time. But then they both branched out and started utilizing other parts of the Force. So like he has done pretty much everything Ahsoka's done too, as far as skill. Like maybe Ahsoka against another Jedi would have an advantage because she would use the dark side of the Force, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but against this guy, no, he's also tampered in these dark arts.
Yeah, they're both
too,
the
that,
same.
makes
Except,
him more powerful.
yeah, she probably leans more light side, and he leans more dark side. Obviously,
It seems
they're both
that
sort
way.
of that gray, which I think is sweet.
Yeah, but it's sweet to see two gray battle it out. He's got the upper hand for sure. She still holds her own to an extent though, but it's when Hati comes back that she notices Sabine didn't, because Sabine had stayed back to fight her.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember what happened with that. Sabine ended up she didn't die, obviously.
No, but
What did she do?
I think Sabine was actually getting the upper hand, and she ran off.
Oh, that's right. She ran off. Yeah, so she comes back, and Ahsoka assumes Sabine got killed because she came back. Obviously, it wasn't Sabine who came, and she gets mad, and she picks her up and frickin' throws her against one of the rocks, which is so like, I don't know, felt very dark side to me.
Yes.
It felt like anger got the best of her there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point what Balin sort of exploits that and just basically slashes her down off the cliff.
Yeah. And I'm just like, come on, of course she's not dead. It's like people outside of George Lucas's Star Wars, like they don't just die unless you cut them in half, you know? And but it was
But
it was such a sweet fight. I think that was the one that was quiet. There was no music or anything. If there was like maybe like a drum beat every now and then, and kind of like how it was in that episode of Mandalorian, where it's very sort of like samurai, quiet, sort of assessing each other, then attacking. It was pretty sweet battle, but
does Balin try to convince her to join them at all? I'm trying to remember.
I think so, yeah. And he says,
I think he's like trying, like,
I know he mentions it's like a shame, like we have to kill you,
yeah.
because
I
like,
love how matter of fact he is. He's just doing his business. Like, she obviously has more emotion in this. Like, he's just like doing a job. Obviously, he's up to something more.
yeah,
Because he kind of says to his Padawan, he's like, if Thrawn comes back, we're gonna know power like you can't even imagine or something. And so it's like, oh, that's very Sith like thing to say,
mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, you
he's
definitely
not Sith.
see by the end of the show he has his own goals too, going on, but
yeah, something bigger than everything, I think, and I feel like he's a mercenary, but I think he's also like using them to achieve what he wants,
yeah.
So anyway, Ahsoka freaking landed at the bottom at this ocean, and we just get this. Okay, so here it comes. I remember texting you,
And
like,
then also too, but before this, Sabine then
yeah
hands them the orb, or they get her to come with them.
Oh, she comes and has a gun to the orb. She's gonna break the orb forever before it's done uploading, and they'll never find Thrawn. And that's when Balin uses like another part of the Force to like connect with her, almost like he just uses his brain, and he's just like, oh well, then I guess you're never gonna find Ezra. You can come with us, and you'll be able to find Ezra, and just manipulates her, just totally manipulates her, and she's like puts the gun down, and that's when she like gets force choked right after that by Hati, because she wanted revenge on her a little bit, I think.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, basically she agrees to go with them, which is bad, which is like, God damn it.
But yeah, she doesn't go after Ahsoka or anything. She goes with them. So
it's like, and then I think that lens, it's got to be love, right? She's got to love Ezra. Like, it's got to be.
I think so. It'd be cool to see. It'd be cool to see a romance between the two.
Okay, now we can talk about it, right? Now we can talk about it. So the ocean transitions into like stardust, into Ahsoka like waking up in like what seems like it should be water, but really she like is waking up in another dimension, in the world between worlds, which we have seen before in Rebels.
Yeah.
Ezra had gone to the world between worlds, and he actually saves Ahsoka in the Vader battle. He like pulls her through one of those portals.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's been here before. I think you can only get to it through like a near-death experience or something. And yeah, it looks freaking great.
Yeah, Ezra got there. There was this mural, and on the mural there was the three people from the Mortis planet or the Mortis trilogy, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And on it was the father, who represented balance, the son who represented the dark side, and the daughter who was the light side. And that's when he went through that. And they come to play later in the show too. But yeah, she
Absolutely.
wakes up.
And it's like, is that motif happening currently in the show somehow? Too, is a question. So it's cool. Like, these are the things, like the details like this. It's like, wow. That's great.
Yes.
It's great. So she gets up in this world between worlds, which looks fantastic. I thought it looked cool in the cartoon too.
Yeah.
And who does she see to end the episode?
Anakin Skyhopper.
Anakin frickin' Hayden Christensen Skywalker.
Hayden Skywalker.
As he was before he fell in lava. Like, his beautiful self.
Our beautiful boy.
And then the episode ends there. And I could not freaking wait for the next week to come. I remember texting you. I think at this point you were still starting the show, and I think you were a little skeptical in the first couple episodes, and
I
I was
was
just
skeptical.
like, dude, watch. You've got
I was
to.
this episode that if the second or third episode, I don't know whichever one it was, where she fights Balin and we get a little bit more from them. I was definitely more into the show. I was definitely into it, but then I was a little afraid just because of the Obi-Wan show, where it felt like they sort of were just sort of like, we'll get the hardcore fans to talk about this and create hype for it by throwing in some things they like. We'll throw in Hayden Christensen fighting Ewan McGregor, and I was a little afraid that it wasn't going to have any sort of meaning. There wasn't going to be any substance. It was just going to be Hayden Christensen standing there and just boring crap happening. And that doesn't happen. It's amazing. And it's, like I said, it kind of explains more of Ahsoka's character. I'm sure a lot of it too was just Dave Filoni, like, all right, like, I'm directing live action now, and now I can like play with the things I created and bring in the real guy, and I can show the real Darth Vader, and do the story plot lines I've set up all the way back from like Clone Wars and things like that. I can do all that this episode. I have an excuse to. I'm sure that was part of it, but again, it's meaningful. It just doesn't feel like worthless fan service, like having Ewan McGregor just say hello there for no reason. Like, it doesn't feel like that.
So exactly, and this is probably the best episode of the season, I would think.
I'd say this
all
or the
really
last
good.
one. The last one was
great as
pretty
well.
amazing too.
So Anakin basically starts off by talking to her. And by the way, like, the lightsaber that he has on his belt as Anakin is actually Vader's lightsaber. It's not.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Not. Yeah. It's
Ooh.
got like the black in it, so it's like Vader's saber on his belt, but he's Anakin. So it's like, okay,
sweet. But it's blue at first.
And there's all this kind of stuff like symbolism. Like, if you look at the pathways, the path behind Anakin is a dead end, and the path behind her veers off to the left. Right. And so basically they start dueling. Anakin's talking to her.
Yeah.
Starts off like kind of like
one last lesson, Snips.
One last lesson, Snips. Like, yeah, it starts off like he's talking to her like they're still good friends and everything, and they start fighting.
She's already dueled him as Darth Vader in Rebels. So I don't think she knew he was Vader before she fought him at that moment in Rebels.
That confirmed it for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. That definitely confirmed it for her when she saw him. Which is, again, in Rebels is an amazing part of what Rebels. Amazing. So they're fighting, and Anakin is so cool because Hayden Christensen doesn't look like he's missed a beat, man. He looks so good with a lightsaber.
I'll say, because of that, I do, because it sometimes is like, maybe because I know in the prequels, the lightsabers they use then were just like sort of like hard sticks, and they added the color onto them. But since the sequel trilogy, the lightsabers are actually real glowing things that you can smack off each other. And I know that's even what they use in Obi-Wan and this show, I think. So, like, I was wondering if, like, in this show, if that's why some of the lightsaber moves were a little slower looking, and it wasn't like Rosario Dawson. I was like, maybe it's just because of like what they're made out of. You can't swing as hard, or maybe they're harder to swing. But there are some moves Anakin does where you can just tell he is moving fast, and you can tell it's just like right before he lands the hit, he's like slowing down, to match Rosario Dawson.
And I think that's one thing we love about the prequels is like Ewan McGregor and Anakin Skywalker and the guy who plays Darth Maul, and these guys spent so much time practicing and training that they actually got really good. Like, that they didn't even need stunt doubles. They were so good with lightsabers.
Oh yeah,
they had all these moves down. And
when I've had people like watch like the prequels with me, and I'm like, like look how crazy fat. And like a lot of times, like if they didn't grow up watching Star Wars and are super nerds like me, they're like, they're not really that fast though. And I'm like, yes, they are. That is them. That's the actors just going bananas on each other right now.
Totally.
I mean, it's all scripted what they're doing, but that's so fast and so technical, and it just feels like a Jedi who can sense a little bit in the future, use the Force, and they're trained warriors. All these things. It just feels like that's how a superhero would fight. If they had a lightsaber.
Oh, totally. And what's cool about it is, remember, Ahsoka's trained by Anakin, so she knows some of his moves.
Mm-hmm.
She knows some of his moves. I think Anakin throws in a little bit more, like trying to like stab more than he used to. Which is it called a Vader more so?
That's what it felt.
And
there was some Vader technique thrown into some like bigger, heavier hits, some bigger like heavy stabs kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Ahsoka's actually like Anakin's kind of pushing her. She's blocking everything. She's doing okay. And she actually gets a move and she kicks him. So it's like, oh man, she got a kick on Anakin. And Anakin's like, okay, now I've pushed you all the way to my dead end. And it's pretty sweet. He just like cuts the floor out from under her, the whatever path it was, and she just drops. And I think at this point in the episode it might cut to more story elsewhere, but when it comes
other boring crap. But it comes back to
boring crap. It comes back to this. I love this next part too, dude.
This was awesome. And one of the things I love about like Star Wars prequels is the Clone Wars era that it's in. But we really don't see too much like of the Clone Wars during the movies. We see it start at the beginning, or at the end rather, of episode 2, Attack the Clones, and then we see it end throughout episode 3. But episode 3 doesn't just focus on like battles and things like. It starts off with one of the battles of the Clone Wars, but then most of it's about Anakin and then eventually how he falls to the dark side. But the show between that, there's some awesome battles. Things. It's like Saving Private Ryan meets Star Wars. But like there's something better to see it live with real things. And like we get a little taste of it. There's a lot of like dust and shadow and things like that. So we don't get to like see a full scale what it would look like. And I'm sure part of that was like, let's do this to limit the budget, but it still made it like a cool atmosphere, and it made it feel like it's a dream. It's like you don't see all the details in a dream, in a flashback. It's just key things you remember and see. And
I love how she
well.
It works so well, but when she falls, she wakes up as a little girl, like closer to the age she probably would have been in the Clone Wars, maybe at the beginning of the Clone Wars.
Crazy to think about. There's this child in a war.
Well, by the way, like Balin is probably the same age roughly as Anakin when you think about it. If he was a Jedi, that he's probably a similar age now.
Maybe,
which is interesting.
Maybe even Ahsoka age, because I think Ahsoka should be kind of old by now, because if you think about it, she was older, in obviously. Clone Wars, and then all the way to the end of the 6th movie is
she
now.
Ghosted. Which she just ghosted.
Yeah, she's like, nah, I don't need to fight the Emperor or anything. No,
she didn't. No. Rebels. She came in Rebels. Anyway,
that's right. She was clearly an adult in Rebels. So let's say she was like in her 20s, maybe 30s then,
So
and
she's
probably
pretty young in this flash. Yeah.
So she's probably like in her 30s or 40s now. So I guess Balin's probably more Anakin's age. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, whatever. But the little girl who plays her, I'm pretty sure it's the same little girl that plays young Gamora in the flashback.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I think I saw
it. Yeah, which is cool.
They get her to play honestly, the young alien girls.
in like dream realms, in like different realms, just briefly. That's her only role. It's the only thing she goes for.
I play young aliens, young alien women.
Yeah. But I love how this scene develops. She's just standing there with this in this sort of dark haze, and a clone trooper runs by her, and another one, and another one. And it's like, we're in a Clone Wars battle, baby. There's like blaster fire going off, like in the mist, you know. You
Mhm.
hear it. It makes me feel like I'm playing Battlefront 2 again, or
Yes, that's what
because
Battlefront 2 vibes going on.
dude,
Yes,
dude.
Battlefront 2 was
I mean,
a key Star Wars experience
let's
for Star Wars nerds
let's be
for
quite
our
honest. The
age, and
Clone
then the new
Wars,
one now.
yeah, for our age, I think the Clone Wars is the favorite sort of era
Yeah,
of Star Wars, right? I mean, it's so cool. And so many cool battles and stuff. And Anakin is like, this is cool because he looks like the animation here. They cut his hair, they give him the armor that they use in the animated show, which I don't think we've ever seen in live action yet.
no,
Yeah.
which I don't love the armor like
Well,
in person,
not
but it's
compared
a
to what
cool
he-
fan service. And the top of it does kind of look like the top of Darth Vader's like cape holder thing that he eventually has. So that is kind of cool to see. If you've seen Obi-Wan's armor, now that's pretty. I would love to see Obi-Wan's armor on. I would wear Obi-Wan's
That would
armor
be
any
cool.
day.
He
out
had
of
cool
the week.
armor. I like, yeah, his armor really was great. And with Ahsoka here, as a girl, she says a comment to Anakin while this war is going on around them. She's like, "This isn't what I trained for in the Jedi," which is again calling back to like the Jedi have become something they were never supposed to be.
Mhm.
They're supposed to be guardians of the galaxy, not
Generals,
generals and
warriors.
fighting in wars like and warriors like that. Like, and so it lends itself to like back when Ahsoka was contemplating leaving the Jedi Order, right? And I think that's a pretty cool moment.
It was such a cool scene, and then just the discussion, you know, with her, and I guess this battle, what we did see in the Clone Wars, or we saw the lead up to it or something, where Ahsoka took charge, and you know, a lot of guys died. And that's one thing she's talking about, and she's seeing like the bodies of the guys now, and it's really cool the discussion she has with Anakin and just how he's talking about how she's grown up in this war, and that's what she needs to be. But you can also tell, like, this is what Anakin was made for, even though that's not what he started out with. Like, this is his realm. This is where, like, he thrives. Is the battle. That is what he wants, you know. And it's not necessarily what she wants, though, even though she grew up with that. But it did, like, influence who she is, though. And it's such a cool, sort of different Jedi lesson thing. You know, I keep talking about like this, you know, these Jedi essence moments, and like the moments from like Fallen Order and like the all the original movies and like the KOTOR games, just the like the morality, the light side and the dark side. It's just differently explored here. And it doesn't feel like a Ryan Johnson version of just like, you know, of crap.
Yeah.
It's so cool and unique and mystical and makes you think. I'm sure I could just dig into that scene more where they're talking, but I just like just watching it just was so good, you know. And I was never like a major Ahsoka character fan, you know. To me,
no,
like the Clone Wars were always like that show, and I was watching, I was like, this is like a fun like seeing what the battles, you know, might have been like. But like I never thought of it as like canon. Like, oh, Darth Maul's back. He got chopped in half. Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah. But now you have to.
But now, yeah. But this definitely made it connect more to me too. You know,
100%.
And seeing Rex too in person, that was sweet.
Come on.
Now I just want to see like a 501st show. You know, like we're just Anakin.
I would love. Well, I mean, the closest thing to that is the Bad Batch. It's not. They're not the 501st.
But I want to see.
Think, but
I want to see Anakin, Rex, and his group just go on a mission, fight like Asajj Ventress or someone. So there's a lightsaber battle. Maybe you could just make it one episode, one little live action movie or something. You know, I don't know.
That'd be great.
I'd love to see something.
So anyway,
like
that'd be sweet. She sees Anakin after their discussion. He walks into the battle, and this was imagery, man.
Just
So
flashes to
cool.
Darth Vader again, too,
Yeah,
just
it's like
showing like this is what he's made
it's
for.
it's blue light with the clones around him, and then it's red light Vader, no one around him, and then it's blue light again with the clones running into the distance, and it's like,
I didn't notice the no one
man,
around him thing. That's pretty sweet.
yeah, the clones like disappeared, like he was alone, and then he was alone pretty much after, you know. So
But
yeah,
in
so then the
Battlefront
vision,
2 story, the 501st was still with Darth Vader. Do you remember that?
right?
So I
Yes.
think Rex maybe was but Rex didn't stay with him. But anyway, though, I'd
Well,
love
yeah,
to see
I don't
the
know
show.
if Battlefront 2 would be canon really, because
I'd
I
love to
think
see.
then they decommission a lot of the clones after.
Yeah, but I think they kept some to start or something. We're kind
Yeah,
of seeing that in the Bad Batch show.
Yeah. So yeah. And how does it go from there? So they have that moment, and then they start fighting again somehow.
Then he comes back
Yeah.
after that vision in the lesson, and now he's got a red lightsaber, and he's just like, "You lack conviction," and just
Yeah.
that was amazing. And he's just wailing on her now, and now he's got like the evil eyes, like he did at when he was at Revenge of the Sith, killing the separatist leaders.
Yeah, and even like it even like flashes, by the way, like to Vader. To you hear you see Anakin walking, but you hear the
Yeah.
so
And you hear the big boots of Darth Vader just stomping. That was so cool.
and and from this point on, he's freaking Vader here. He's fighting like Vader. He's going at her. She is like scrambling a bit, but she eventually gets back on her feet, and she does the move that Anakin did to Dooku to disarm him in episode 3 in the beginning. And she holds the lightsaber up to Anakin's neck, and it's the red lightsaber I think she took. And she decides to spare him, right? And obviously this isn't a vision. She turns it off. And this is also a little unfinished business duel between her and Vader from Rebels that she was pulled out of too. Because that duel wasn't over yet.
I think he was going to kill her though. And I think that was, Ezra definitely saved her. And
no doubt. But here it's cool because she discards the lightsaber. You know, she's not going to choose that way of the Sith that would kill. And you see Darth Vader turn back into Anakin.
Yeah, I loved seeing that.
He smiles.
Oh, she does that, and he like goes back to regular Anakin, regular eyes, blue lightsaber, calm demeanor. He's like, all right, okay,
yeah. It's just Anakin is one of the coolest characters in film history. In history, I mean,
yeah.
And he did have that. Obviously, he had that moment with his son where it brought him back to the light side. When Luke threw the lightsaber down.
Yeah.
You know?
Anakin did not. He cut off Dooku's head. He decided to listen to the Emperor, and he went for it. And then he sliced Mace Windu. You know, whatever moment you want to say, like he was definitely in the dark side. But Luke threw it down, said no.
Eventually, and then that lent itself to turning him back into Anakin. So freaking awesome, man. And obviously at this point, Hera had flown in, and they're looking.
Yeah, her son
looking for her.
Like when they come to where they last saw her in Sabine from the droid, he senses through the Force. He's like, "Do you hear that? It's lightsabers." And
that's right.
They're all like, "You're fucking weird," and there's something wrong with you. And interspecies Force child, and then they go off into the ship though, and they pick her out of the water from his guidance. And then from then on, Ahsoka's like, I'm wearing white clothes now because I am
Gandalf the White.
I'm Ahsoka the White.
She's Gandalf because she was wearing dark robes before.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting.
It was cool. I liked her white robes. transformation there. Another little
yeah, but it sort
like
of makes you feel like she came back complete or something, or
mhm.
like she upped a level after
Yeah,
that lesson from Anakin. She's like
she definitely went up a
she's
level.
wiser. That's really cool.
I feel like too this is where
That's
her
really cool.
acting starts to be less like stiff. That whole scene where she had with Anakin, I thought was good. But before that, I felt like it
Yeah.
was very like I said, just crossed arms. She'd like kind of smirk every now and then, but there wasn't like any sort of like there wasn't any like Ahsoka-ness to it, you know? And I get she's older now than she was in the other shows.
Mm.
But now I feel like she kind of like jokes, she kind of like smiles and looks like interested in things. She's not just crossed armed, you know. She definitely likes to cross her arms a lot, but it feels like after this, it's more of like what I thought Ahsoka was, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And with that power now that she can go and she can convince whales to put
Eat her.
them in their mouth and
Put me
not
in your
eat
mouth.
and digest, but just to suck on.
I know. Can you imagine like just going for a run, just like holding like something
like
in
a
your mouth?
metal? Yeah, yeah. Nice whale.
It was a sweet scene though too. That's what
It was
even
cool.
after all that ended, I loved just seeing like her white robe transformation and then force talking with the whales. Her demeanor changed and just the VFX of it was pretty good too. I just it looked so cool seeing these massive things in the sky and then they fly by that ship in space. It was I felt like kind of that shot of like Star Wars rejuvenation that I felt back when we first saw Force Awakens, you know, like that. Do you remember that feeling? We were just like, Star Wars is back and it's amazing. Like I got that sort of like feeling when this episode was like wrapping up. I was like, man, I love Star Wars. Star Wars has always been good.
Right.
I don't know why I ever complained about stuff.
Oh man, it's so good. It didn't, dude. Again, I did not expect this show to make me feel like this. I didn't expect it, man, and it's great. I'm so happy about it.
Me too.
So yeah, so they're gonna get to where they need to go. By the way, the planet of, I think it's Peridea, right? This planet apparently is like the original home of the Dothamiri people. I'm pretty sure this is like their actual ancestral home, and they actually populated Dothamir and named it after themselves. It was a different planet that they had to go to for some reason. But so again, another cool ancient Force use planet with temples, a temple that kind of looks like Minas Tirith.
Yep.
A little bit, right?
Very sort of Lord of the Rings sort of planet. This one is with the big statues and the temples. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get this sense because we meet these three witches who are holding orbs just like in those carvings in the first episode with Ahsoka. That this planet has a special sort of connection to them, that they especially thrive on a planet like this because of the magic, I guess, that I don't know.
The way they these like Dathamirian witches use the Force, it's kind of more like sorcery magic. Yeah, the Night Sisters. In the Clone Wars, that's who they were. The Night Sisters, and on their planet, the Zabrak were the men who were like kind of like their slaves, kind of. But then every now and then they choose one and they just make him just a beast. And so that was kind of cool. But so these are kind of like the female version of what Darth Maul is. And
they're cool. They're really well done. They're creepy. They don't smile. They're just ancient. They feel very
liked
ancient.
how they look in live action. This was a great
yes
live action translation.
Yeah, they creep me out. I like I don't like anything that you guys do.
I don't want to be involved.
I don't want to be involved with these ladies. Well, that's my biggest fear is old ladies. And it is I told that to my wife the other day when we were watching a scary movie. It's like, oh, old ladies are my biggest fear. And she's like, you're going to be married to one someday.
And all your patience.
I don't
A lot of
know.
patience.
I'm
It's
just
funny when you
kidding.
say wife.
I mean,
I'm Kobe
no.
and I have a wife. You know?
No, what I mean by that though is like in scary movies, old ladies creep me out. Like when they make them all creepy,
Mm-hmm.
they always seem to be the scariest. They always seem to be the scariest. But anyway, these witches, they have the orbs. They like sense the Jedi-ness in Sabine, who had arrived, and they're like, she wasn't supposed to come. Like, we don't want any Jedi aura to taint our witchcraft.
Oh,
And they like bind her with their orbs. It's cool. They put her in like a chamber of some kind. Store her away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think they eventually let her go though.
Yeah. And this is another reason too. Balin's like, hey, I made her a promise, and he talks to when Thrawn shows up. He tells him that, and he's like, all right, I'll let her go. But he's like, I don't have to promise to help her out, and I didn't promise I wouldn't send you and your apprentice after her to kill her. But yeah, let her go.
Yeah.
Which is I think cool, like the cool, like honorable side of Balin too. Again, he's not just like the evil Sith listening guy. I like that they're their own party, the two of them. You know, like they're not.
But Thrawn is also going to use this to his advantage too.
Mm-hmm. And
because I think Morgan's like, why the heck would you let her go? You know, and he's like, well, because she's going to lead us to Ezra, basically.
Yeah. And Ezra's like
let's talk
his biggest defeat. And let's just talk about Thrawn showing up. So they're on the top of this temple, and then just this Star Destroyer just shows up. Star Destroyer. Is that what they call the ships? Yeah. And it's just like there's like lightning and crazy stuff going on, and it just like parks its like docking bay over the top of the temple, and all of these like stormtroopers have, it looks like their armor is like maybe like taped up and stuff to like stay together.
Yeah.
But it gives them like
personalized in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this one stormtrooper with like a face, like the gladiator face from like Gladiator, the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe. Mm-hmm. Remember that big lion guy and that face? That's like his stormtrooper mask face. And they're just all chanting Thrawn. And the guy shows up, and it's the guy who voiced him in the show, which is sweet. And it's the same guy too. I didn't realize he's in The Witcher. He's that one wizard. I can't remember his name right now. That like Geralt talks to in the first episode, and he's throughout the rest of the show. Again, I'm having trouble getting through the third season. Haven't been in, but anyway, though, he's in it.
He's also in Sherlock.
I think I remember that
he
too.
Plays the guy with the glasses. That he doesn't really use the glasses. It's in his head. He's like Sherlock. Remember? He has his mind palace.
Yeah.
Remember that? Mm-hmm. And he's a Danish actor, Lars Mikkelsen, the brother of Mads Mikkelsen, who has already been in Star Wars as Galen Erso.
That's right.
It's his brother. Who's also been in a multitude of other things that he's both very, very good actors, very good actors.
And I have to say, I was never like a huge Thrawn fan. Like, it's just like when he was in the Rebel show, like everyone's like, oh, Thrawn's back. And, you know, he was in the original, like the sequel trilogy that was written, after the movies came out. I think even after the prequels came out. There was books written about what the sequel trilogy was, and which I started reading the first one, and it's good. I like it way more than the other thing. So anyway, though, never a big Thrawn fan, though. And like in Mando season 3, everyone's like, Thrawn's here. Thrawn's in charge. I like that he's like a smart, Imperial guy written, instead of, like a lot of the Imperial generals seem kind of stupid. They make like he's always like the one that's like, oh, he might win. But like I was never like, where's Thrawn? Like, when's Thrawn gonna come back? That was never me.
I think it might be because he doesn't really fight himself.
Yeah.
He's just the general and orders other people around, and he is really smart. He's a good strategist.
Yeah. I like
very
that
clever.
Part of him. I like that he's a strategist. I also like too that he's like calm. I think that's one thing I really didn't like with the sequel trilogy villains is like everyone was just screaming all the time. And even like the Obi-Wan show, just like if you're a bad guy, you're supposed to scream. You're supposed to show you're angry and scream all the time. But that to me, like when I see someone doing that, like I just think they're out of control and they're not going to do anything.
The fact that he was calm was more intimidating in this show.
That's what I mean. And that's the original trilogy. The villains in that were calm. The prequel trilogy, Dooku, Maul, Darth Sidious, all calm. They all like the baddest dude you're going to run into is someone that just knows they can screw you over. And they're
Thanos.
They have Thanos.
Freaking just sitting there with an army. Just, I don't know. He's awesome. Yeah. But you're right.
So that's what I like about him.
Sort of what makes him intimidating. Yeah. And Lars Mikkelsen does a very, very nice job. Obviously painted blue. So
he looks creepy too.
He looks creepy.
Live action translations and creepy.
Working directly with the Witch sisters who do cool Night Sister type stuff, like later on when they're trying to get in, like she resurrects the dead clone troopers, which was awesome. Actually, they would be stormtroopers, not clone troopers.
They're stormtroopers because they're from the Empire.
Right.
Remember, this is from the Rebels.
Stormtroopers.
They were
right. So they're stormtroopers.
Can you imagine too, like staying loyal to the Empire after being shot into a different galaxy? You're like after by space whales, and you're just like, I'm gonna keep serving the blue guy on this strange planet, even though we have no way of getting home. Like,
what else are you gonna do?
I'm just gonna tape my armor up and just chant his name. Like, this is a cult. This is a cult of people.
Yeah.
To be loyal for this long and just like tape your arm up and like Thrawn, like. Like, so anytime like Thrawn like gets up and like gets his like stuff from the microwave, does everyone like Thrawn and like form an aisle?
Yeah.
It was a cool scene.
Well, it was cool. But meanwhile, Ahsoka arrives with the whales, with Hera and I think Hera's there, right?
No.
She go with them?
No, Hera's not there.
No, Hera didn't go. Oh,
she stays behind.
Droid. Right. So the droid goes. Yeah, with her droid. And they come out of the whales. And apparently they talk about the whales. This is their migration path. And when they get to this planet, that's where they die. So there's just a whale graveyard who's basically making a ring around this planet. And what I thought was really cool is when they arrived, they set up freaking like a minefield that is just basically impossible to get through without hitting one. Like it was everywhere.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
And they start just hitting those, and they're like, when they're out of their ship, and they're like, oh, at least the whales will get rid of some of it for us. And they're like, and the whales were like, no, and they just they're just hyperspaced away. And you're like, oh, another thing too. Anyway. I'm wondering, and I saw this somewhere else. Ahsoka, she's traveling through the whale, through hyperspace and everything. And then if you remember Grogu with Mando, Din Djarin, they saw some whale traveling. I wonder if that was supposed to be like her in her whales, or if that was just unrelated. It's just some other whale.
That'd be kind of cool. I'd have to think about the time and everything, but
because I think season 3, Thrawn is back because everyone like in that Empire meeting is like talking about Thrawn and how he's in charge or something, and Moff Gideon's like,
right,
whatever. So, I've been here like the whole time. Like, why are we talking about blue guy? And I like Moff Gideon too, talking about villains. Like, that's I'm also like too. Like, we have Moff Gideon. Why do we need Thrawn? But it's cool. Thrawn's back. Whatever.
Yeah. Thrawn, and connects us to Ezra as well, who we get to meet here in one of the second to last episodes, I think. Well, first of all, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Ahsoka shows up and she has like a force connection with Sabine, who's like in the chamber, and that's how she ends up finding them. But Sabine is let go with one of those freaking rat thingies,
Like a big rat dog,
or I don't know. Yeah, what it is. Looks dangerous though.
But it turns out
they
to be
basically,
nice.
yeah, they track her, the Balin and Hati track her because they want to go get Ezra, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she basically goes to try to find him.
I thought it was cool here too that, he promised to, help her go to Ezra, and then Balin's apprentice, who has seemed pretty blood angry towards Sabine so far, like when they say like, "Hey, we're going after her," she kind of seemed like, "Is this the right thing to do?" Kind of thing. Like it seemed like there was some questioning from her, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and basically she is going, and she happens upon a little person. I don't know what these things are, but
the little turtle dudes,
little turtle dudes, and she follows him back to a village, and that's where Ezra is, and she finds him. They have a cool reunion.
I like
up a
the
little
guy
bit.
who plays Ezra. I don't. He just he
really
seems
cool.
fun. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, just when I first saw him, I'm just like, that guy seems like a really nice guy. Just
which Ezra is.
Yeah, because there's some people that like they smile, like, and they're an actor and they're like playing like a nice character, and like it just doesn't feel real. But I feel like that guy is like a really nice, happy guy.
He seems like it.
Maybe he's a jerk, but he seems like it. I don't know. I liked him.
Yeah, he was cool, and he's living amongst these little things that I think they are mechanics or something. They can repair stuff, and they live in little shells, and like they float around in these shells. And it's funny when like bad things come, they just seal them up and hide.
Yeah, they're cool. They're funny.
And later on, when they're confronted by the girl and the soldiers too, they Sabine's like, "Here, you're the good Jedi, take the lightsaber." And he's just like, "Nah, don't need it, don't need it." And it was cool, actually. I was kind of like, the nerd in me was like, "Take it, I want to see you fight with a lightsaber."
Yeah,
but
at first I was like, why wouldn't you have the lightsaber? But maybe I think just for like the point of action, like making variety in action, I think they were just like, let's show the Force.
Yeah, and I also think there might be something with him using the lightsaber. Like he might be, I don't know, doesn't want to use lethal force or something like that.
He eventually does though, because I was thinking the same thing. And when the three of them go to the temple, like they all kill those stormtroopers. Because I was paying attention to the same thing. If you watch like the Clone Wars show, when it was back on Cartoon Network, and then the next to last season was on Netflix actually, and then the last season was on Disney Plus. And all the seasons before the Disney Plus final season, like they showed like lightsabers stabbing people. They like showed lightsabers hitting people, killing people. I didn't show them like get decapitated or delimbed or anything, but it was very clear lightsabers, like you fought a person with lightsabers that kill people. But like Rebels and the final season of Clone Wars, lightsabers were just to like chop the fronts of guns off, and then like, and then they're disarmed, And I always thought that was so stupid and lame. And it's just like any kid watching this has seen some Star Wars movie. If they've seen the prequels, they've seen Anakin get 3 limbs chopped off and lit on fire. If they've seen any of the original, I mean, the first episode 4, like a guy loses his arm and it's bloody. It's a bloody mess, that guy in the bar, and Luke gets his hand chopped off. We see tons of delimbing stuff.
An Ewok dies.
An Ewok died. Thank God. That was
no.
That's always been always a little rousing for me, honestly. And And
But
so yeah, I was purposely watching in this. I was like, do lightsabers kill people in this? Like, is Disney gonna keep trying to Disney the lightsabers? But no, like we do see people get stabbed. We see them get sliced. We don't see them get like cut in half or anything, which I wish we did. You know, Darth Maul cut in half and fell down a shaft. Like
in two pieces.
If you're a fan of Star Wars as a kid, you've seen the stuff. So
you've seen some shit, man.
Seen some shit, man. You've seen some shit.
You've been through some stuff.
You've been through some
but,
stuff. So and it does, like, if you do watch, like, there are some moments like Ezra does decapitate one of those, like, remember the big zombie guys that were fighting them?
Yeah.
He does decapitate the one and the head rolls off, but like the actual
he's already a zombie though.
Well, it's a zombie, and the actual like cut where he decapitates it was like hidden by, like, he jumped up from his back, cut the head off, and the head fell off. And like that moment where he actually cut the head was behind a wall. Like the camera was following him get up, then they were behind the wall, and then the head comes off over here. You know, so you didn't actually see it. And like when Ahsoka kills like that Inquisitor, and then when she maybe kills Morgan, it's just like a slice in the belly. It's just like a red glowing slice, you know.
Yes,
it's not like she got cut in half. And I'm just like,
no, for sure,
like people have been stabbed all the way through in the Disney era Star Wars and not died. Like, do we really think just like a slice on the top is gonna do it, you know?
Yeah. We'll find out. We'll find out next season. But yeah,
but anyway, though, I was thinking the same thing. But he does eventually. He's killing people and he's killing the undead. So I don't know. It was cool to see him just use the Force though.
And it was cool. There's a cool moment between Balin and Hati where he sends her to fight Sabine and Ezra, and he's basically going to stay back and fight Ahsoka. Like, he knows what he has to do. And he basically says, like, this is where our path parts, you know, and kind of has a moment with his Padawan. And
I forgot about that. Because at the end, he's like, looks like he starts going on his own mission.
Yeah, and that's kind of, we see him at the end standing on a sweet statue of, again, probably some old Force temple there or something. I don't know.
I'll tell you about this stuff here.
What is this?
Oh, you want to know? Let's wrap up the rest, and we'll get to that. But
okay.
So yeah, we see them do that. It was another great fight between him and Ahsoka. I thought this one was like a little quicker paced. It didn't have the same stumbles that I saw. I love their first duel, but there was like moments where I'm just like, it looks like they have to be like delicate at times. This one felt faster and better. But she runs away from him and goes and meets up with Sabine and Ezra, and they kill all the stormtroopers, and then crazy blonde girl surrenders because ships come shooting and stuff, and eventually though they're going to go face off against Thrawn. And this was final episode. I love this. You know, they go in, just watching them take out all those stormtroopers, and the stormtroopers felt dangerous too.
Even the way they get in too, how they're like, they're getting shot at like from above.
Oh yeah.
They have to get through the doors. It's sweet too.
That was sweet. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Oh man, I forgot about that. That was awesome. But yeah, they get in, and then
it's like he's like hellfire raining on them. Yeah,
that was awesome. And the stormtroopers felt dangerous, but they took them all out, and that's when the Dathomir witches, they bring them all back as zombies, and they're like, "Have you seen this before?" And I haven't seen this before. And if you do remember in the Fallen Order video game,
yes,
they do the dead sisters come back to life, like when you're trying to escape Dathomir.
I think in Clone Wars there's something, they bring something back to life too.
Oh yeah, they do that when they're, because Dooku sends General Grievous to go kill
Yeah.
them because they were like doing voodoo torture to Dooku. So he sends Grievous and his army, and then they're just like wiping them out, and then they raise up some of the fallen sisters through their magic.
That's right. Yes.
That was a sweet episode. That was a sweet
cool
arc.
episode. Really cool. But yeah, so they're going through, and it's like Thrawn is never panicking, but like none of these things are working. They keep just succeeding in everything they do. They turn Morgan into a Night Sister. Right? They officially do it, and they're like, "There's no way out of this. Like, you're gonna commit." And she's like, "Yep." And they give her a sweet weapon.
Yeah, Mother Talisman's sword, and Mother Talisman was the head Dathomir witch back on Dathomir, and that sword she used to fight. I think Mace Windu is who when we first saw it or something. But I thought she was dead from Grievous, but I think maybe she came back. You know,
sure.
Again, that is one thing. I love Filoni, but Filoni and like the Disney Star Wars era, like they just keep bringing people back. No one dies.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's not alive now, but it's her sword. And that's the sword she uses to when she faces off against Ahsoka, which was
they let the others run right through. By the way, like,
I know
they face off. I was kind of like, okay, so you're gonna let them go? I mean, they had a plan, obviously, because so Ezra and Sabine go on, and Ahsoka just takes on this Morgan, and it's a pretty sweet duel. By the way, Ahsoka earlier on killed Marok. We missed it. In sort of the same way Obi-Wan killed Maul. Like they're lining up, and like she puts her lightsaber up like this, and that makes Marok think he can get his double blade spin action going, and it's just like one move, and she like got him. Remember that? That's how That's how he got killed. I forgot like how she did it. That was
You're talking about the creepy Sith Inquisitor guy, the smoke guy.
The Inquisitor guy. Yeah. I like that because it doesn't it doesn't always have to be like a crazy battle, like a crazy duel. Like that one just perfectly executed one move. So
very samurai-esque.
Cool. Very samurai-esque. Yeah. Anyway, she fights Morgan. Great fight. What do you think about it?
I loved this one. To me, felt like the overall best looking one. Like there wasn't any. I thought her second fight with Balin. I was thinking. I was really watching it too. I was like, is this? Where are the slow moments? And I felt like I didn't see as many, if any, in the second Balin one. This one too, I felt like was a little more acrobatic, and was quicker paced. You know, and I wondered
also that great. Yeah.
If like the wider shots, if they had like a body double for Rosario Dawson and like a stunt double, sword double come in, I would really love to just, you know, like I love that like Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor did all their lightsaber stuff. I would love that Rosario would, if she would do her own, if you know, and I hope that's what happened. I don't know though. But there was a lot more like wider shots, and I was like, they probably could have. If they didn't, they probably could have used a double here. But all of it looked good. Yeah. And it like they fight down there and then they go upstairs.
Yeah. Didn't it feel like a boss battle in a video game? Too?
Yeah.
It's like, you can't leave this room until you defeat this one, and then you can move on in your quest. That's what it felt like.
Cool. And then like Stormtrooper.
It felt like a good arena room for that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But a lot of people say like the first two seasons of Mando felt like video game-esque, but it was so good because of that, you know.
Yeah,
like video games make like some of the best media, you know. That you go from fighting a certain kind of enemy, the story progresses, you fight a harder kind of enemy, and that's basically what was happening here. It felt very much like you're progressing through like the final mission in a video game. You're fighting some of the harder villains you fought. Here's some even harder ones that you fought throughout, but now there's more of them all together. And there's a boss, and then after that boss, there's another boss. You know, it's it was sweet. It was great. What did you think of the fight? What did you think of it?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I love that you're fighting with something that's not a lightsaber too, like those swords are. It's just cool. But yeah, so she wins the fight. She makes it up, but meanwhile, Thrawn's taken off. Thrawn is ready to go out, and they are. Who are they fighting here? They're fighting. Who stops Ezra and the sisters, right? Or is it?
Oh, it's those big zombie guys. It's like the
Oh, the
big
zombie
zombie,
guys. Yeah, yeah.
stormtroopers.
Yeah.
They beat them,
and
but it's tough because they're like
yeah,
creepy
it's-
zombie things under their
and
helmets.
meanwhile, the Star Cruiser's starting to take off, and once they beat them, they're sort of like, "Oh, it's too far to jump." And Sabine's like, "I'll push you."
And he's like, I
Like,
don't
if you jump-
trust your shitty force powers.
And she's like, "All right, what else do you want to do?" So anyway, and then she does it, and he gets on the ship, but she is not able to make it as well. She stays back because we're not sure what she's going to do because Ahsoka's still there, and
Ahsoka's getting
still
overwhelmed.
battling,
And
yeah.
you're kind of wondering because, like, before she didn't help Ahsoka, she was worried about the orb and all that stuff. And that's when Ahsoka got pushed off the cliff. And there's the whole thing between the two of them. Like, Ahsoka didn't
Yeah.
support her and blah, blah, blah. But she turns back for her. She's like, you're not
Yeah.
alone. And she has her gun and her lightsaber. And it's pretty sweet. Ahsoka ends up finishing off Morgan. Maybe kills her. I don't know. But she ends up actually disarming her because she lost one of her two lightsabers and she has one lightsaber. She takes her sword and then slashes both of them across Morgan. And she falls down. And you see again, just
Come
like
on,
a
that has
burning
to
slash.
kill her. Has to kill her.
That was sweet.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they are stuck on that planet as the Thrawn gets away, and Ezra stowed away on that ship. You see a little scene of him. He knocks out a couple stormtroopers, and then he takes one of their comms and says, "I can't remember if he says everything's all right or something."
Yeah, that's what he said. Very
Yeah,
like Han
and,
Solo.
Yeah, and he puts on the armor, and later on, he had taken one of their cruisers, and he arrives where Hera is, and he comes off the ship, and it's a nice reunion between Ezra and Hera.
This was
who haven't seen
one
each other in a
thing.
long time.
It was cool that he's back again. Though people who don't know Rebels, like this whole scene is supposed to be like kind of emotional and be like, here's your payoff for the Rebels finale that happened. What 5-6 years ago? I don't know.
Yeah,
half a decade ago, and but like a lot of people were like, I don't know what this is, but but he gets off, and why is he dressed in full stormtrooper? Why does he have the helmet on? Like he could easily have just diffused that tension by just stepping off the ship and like without a helmet, because like you
I thought the same
land
thing.
on a New Republic ship, like first of all, they must have had to have let him in then, because they could just destroy his little cruiser. So they must have let him on, and then you're gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna get him good. I'm gonna get him good with my helmet on.
How
It's
funny
like-
would it have been if he just got shot on sight? Oh, stormtrooper!
Stop right there.
Stormtrooper! And then that's it.
Then they check him. Oh, Ezra! Oh no!
Ezra's not in season 2. No, but so we have him. Obviously now they'll be in the other world. They could probably help get Ahsoka and Sabine later on, I would think. But meanwhile, Thrawn's back. Thrawn's ready to wreak havoc in, I assume, what's going to be season 2, unless they put it in Mandalorian season 4 or make another show spin-off and put critical parts of a different show in that show. We'll see.
I hope not. I hope they
I
start.
hope not.
Her second cameo. It might be important. I don't know. Her second cameo. She was in Boba Fett too, and she was with Luke, where Luke's starting up his new school. But she wasn't super important there. But maybe it's important to know she was with Luke, and so you have to watch all of Boba Fett. I hope they start to, if they cameo in another show, I hope it's just like a meaningless, like like a one-off adventure, and if you don't see it, it's okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Tell you
um,
what, I think her cameos and the show have made me like Ahsoka a lot more than I used to. I've
oh yeah,
always liked Ahsoka. I've never not liked Ahsoka,
yeah, I
but
never
I think
disliked her.
like they've really done justice to her character in these shows. So really happy with that. That's where our season ends. I don't think am I missing anything?
Well, let's get to the ending
Uh,
now. Let me
okay.
explain the ending. So I didn't know this when I first saw it. This is me doing some research, but what we see is we see Balin
Mhm.
standing on top of that cool mountain there, Balin's skull, and he's looking out from this giant mountain, old man with a finger pointing out, and he's
Just
standing on the
straight
finger.
out of like Lord of the Rings.
Yes, very cool. But he's looking at a temple with like this sort of light off in the distance. So that mountain, if you go back and look at it, the mountain, that old man, there's a figure. If you're perspective of the mountain, to the left of the mountain, there's a guy. There's another figurehead, and to the right of it, there's the body of a woman with the head missing. What that is, those are the three Force gods from the Mortis episode, where Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka land on this planet where they basically meet like embodiments / gods of the Force. And the father, the old man that Balin is standing on, represents balance, and his children. He has one who represents the dark side, the sun, and his daughter represents the light side. The old man, Balance, he wanted Anakin to be his successor because he knew he was going to die at some point. And if you remember, even in the movies, Anakin's prophecy was he was the one to bring balance to the Force. And then the son, the dark side, though, he ends up killing his father. He uses some sort of specific dagger. And then he also infects or somehow controls Ahsoka. And remember him, Ahsoka, and Anakin fight. And eventually, though, that sort of like infection he does to her ends up killing her. But then the daughter, the light side, ends up giving her life to Ahsoka to bring her back. And so that's why that owl is always following Ahsoka around. That owl is like sort of like the reincarnated light side daughter god.
Right.
So that all happened in Clone Wars. In Rebels, when Ezra was going to the world between worlds, he went through that mural. And the son, after he left and came back, or I forget when, the son originally, his drawing head was looking straight forward. And when he came back, it was like looking at different, it was like profile view. So like the son moved. So it's like, is the son alive? Because even though the daughter's like dead, she's alive as the owl, sort of watching out. So some are speculating because Anakin, even though, he did fall to the dark side and became Darth Vader, he did end up killing the Emperor. And
bring balance to the Force.
He brought balance to the Force. And now he's a Force ghost. And some are wondering if Anakin's Force ghost is now the balance god, the father.
I like this.
And some speculate because the daughter gave her powers to Ahsoka that she is the daughter.
Which would make.
And that some people are wondering if Balin would be the son now because he's now following whatever's being shown here to that temple. I kind of wonder though, and this is another sort of extended lore that Disney retconned and said is legend. So now this is me. So all this stuff I've heard other places. Now this is as far as I know, this is Steve only theory here. So in originally Clone Wars, before Disney era, it was kind of like this is kind of maybe it's true, maybe it's canon, maybe it's not. And Anakin had this Padawan. There was also a video game that came out that George Lucas at the time said was canon, and it was Darth Vader had a Padawan, and that was Starkiller, and it was in a video game called Star Wars: The Force Unleashed.
Great game.
Yeah.
Great game.
And I kind of wonder if that character, because Filoni likes to bring back things that make them canon, I wonder
That'd be cool.
if he'll be brought back. And the thing is, too, Sam Whitworth, I think is the name, is the actor who played the son, the dark side son, and he played the character of Darth Vader's apprentice, the Star Killer. So I kind of wonder if, now Anakin's the father. He has one apprentice who was on the light side, Ahsoka, and he had one apprentice who was on the dark side, Star Killer. I wonder if we'll get a Star Killer that comes back dark side. Sam Whitworth will be able to play him, so that'll be the son and Star Killer.
Oh, please.
I don't know,
dude.
I don't know if that'll happen.
That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
That's I haven't seen anywhere else, but me tying in these other theories I've seen, from, Ahsoka being the new light side and Anakin becoming the father now, it kind of makes sense. But some the speculating I've seen so far is that Balin will become the son, and he'll be the dark side.
And there's no chance. What was the name of Star Killer?
I think his name was just Star Killer. I think he was Vader's apprentice. I don't think he had a name other than Star Killer.
What was his backstory? Did he escape from the Jedi Temple as well?
I don't think so. I don't think we ever got. I think he was just someone that Vader found and raised as his secret apprentice.
Okay.
And he
was a force sensitive. I was going to say, is there any chance? There's no chance that Balin could be.
Well, that would be cool. Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. But obviously, then Starkiller would have had to come from the Jedi Temple because they talk a lot about his Jedi days.
If they, Thrawn was originally in the sequel trilogy that was written in books, and that trilogy, even though it's now retconned, it doesn't exist. Thrawn was brought back, and now they've retconned and said that the Force Unleashed games aren't canon, but will that character still come back?
Change,
but just different. So maybe you're right. Maybe that is. Maybe, but it sounded like he didn't sound like he ever, because he mentioned he's like, oh, I knew Anakin at the temple, So.
Oh yes, probably not. Probably
maybe.
Not,
who knows?
Idea. Well, then again, he could be talking about Anakin and not Vader, right? It's almost like two different people. I don't know. Probably not. I'm going to lean toward not, but who knows? But yeah, those are fantastic theories. And man, it's bringing us back to like, the theories we were having after episode 7 came out.
Yep. When we first saw the trailer and we were talking, when we were first seeing, remember we saw the episode 8 trailer and we were going to have a cardiopalm test the next day.
Oh yeah. Well, forget that.
And we were fried from the test before. Like we had a test day before, a musculoskeletal test or something.
We did fine.
Yeah, we passed, but mine wasn't that great. I think you did all right. Mine,
I don't remember, but
mine was like on the edge of mastery. Maybe I didn't even get mastery on that one. I don't know, but I was fried. I remember just being fried that night from all the studying. And then just like, I have to do more cardio pump. And then that trailer dropped. And I was like, I am done. We just talked theories all night.
Yep. That was great.
But yeah. But anyway, though, so that temple. So another thing with the temple, and I didn't know about apparently there's a mother character too. So there's the father, the son, the daughter, and there's apparently a mother who was actually mortal. And she eventually got some sort of power, and I don't know if she became Abeloth or her power was Abeloth. I don't know, but then she became evil. And they had to, Odin. And they had to imprison her though. The family, because she was like wild and uncontrolled. But now the family's dead, and so I kind of wonder if maybe that temple he's going to is where the mother is. Well, that's a theory. I didn't come at that one. I saw it somewhere else too.
Wow. That's
so
cool.
there.
I know Ray Stevenson died.
Yeah.
but I hope that they're still able to use this character in some way and go, because I'm really excited about that storyline.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think they're going to explore more of that sort of gray Jedi stuff with this, because it's like,
so cool.
it's they both respect the Jedi Order, Ahsoka and him, but they both don't like what it really did, um, you know, and they don't really hate each other. They both have like their own interests. So I mean, he's an awesome character, and I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with this, because clearly those statues were the Mortis trilogy people, and whatever sort of crazy arc Filoni has set up from the Clone Wars and the Rebels into this, with all that, I think will be really cool to see. So I hope that doesn't end, and I hope that it's Balin who does it. I hate like recasting a character just so we can keep that character, but I do want that character, and I will remember Ray Stevenson's portrayal as being amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah. Look, that's Ahsoka.
That is Ahsoka.
That's Ahsoka, and again, just blew me out of the water compared to what I was expecting. And where does it rank on now all of the Star Wars shows that have come out, live action shows? It's up there. It's probably. I mean, I love the first 2 seasons of Mando. I love them. I don't know.
I think honestly, as a show itself, one of the reasons I liked Mando so much was because it was a Star Wars show live action that was awesome. And we were seeing cool things. Mando culture reminded me so much of like samurai and Vikings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the second season was so emotional. But like this show, and part of it too was just like enjoying Star Wars again after like being let down by the sequel trilogy. And now, as just like a show by itself, a first season, I think this first season is better than the first season of Mando. But it is kind of like Rebels Clone Wars season 3, though. You know what I mean?
It also just has what I want, which is lightsaber duels.
Lightsaber action. Duels.
Love lightsaber duels. It's like the hallmark of Star Wars, is it not?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so every episode's got something, and it's great. It didn't feel like too much, I don't think.
No, it never felt
sure
like
I could ever
being too much. Everyone felt unique, and like they just really cared about it. Didn't feel like, all right, let's have some lightsabers go and clash around and bang, and while we just to fill up some action. Everyone felt like they cared about the choreography and like the story of it and everything. It was all really good.
Yeah. So, great job, everyone involved in the show. Very excited for another season of this. Not sure when we're going to get it. There's going to be scenes from this show I'm going to go back and rewatch many times.
Yeah.
There it is. Oh, there it is now.
That's the Clone Wars battle right behind me right now. I'm definitely going to watch this episode now. We just talked.
Oh, man. What an episode. What an episode. But yeah, I mean, I think that basically wraps it up. Please let us know your thoughts on this show, this first season. Is there anything we missed? Any big points? Anything you really liked? Obviously, there's probably more we didn't get to, but we tried to talk about as much as we could here. But really, there's a lot of little things too. A lot of little Easter eggs that callbacks to Rebels. Like, for example, another one I just thought of was in Sabine's home in the beginning. You see the stormtrooper helmet and gear in the corner from one of the Rebels adventures that they went on, where they had to dress up.
Stormtroopers?
In the stormtrooper. Yeah. So like, there's just that, just little cool things like.
Yeah, I'm just glad this was a Star Wars show that delivered on the things I want, with like a level of care that someone actually cares about it and not just like pushing out content. That's what
totally
Obi-Wan to me felt like. It was there were some cool things in it, but it really just felt like it was pushing out content. And the first two seasons of Mando didn't feel that way, and this didn't feel that way, and it was good. So
Yeah,
I'm just
absolutely.
so happy with that, and I'm ready
Yeah.
for season 2 already.
Yes.
I
Yes.
was like, oh man, I wish there was more episodes of this when it ended.
I feel like when season 2 comes out and it's like, oh, I better rewatch season 1, I'll be like excited to do so based on how
Mhm.
much I like the show. I'll be like, oh, absolutely rewatch that.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
Great. So anything else, Steve?
No, if you have any other theories about the ending or anything else
Ooh,
that we
yeah.
might have missed, let us know. Because I
Yeah.
don't think there is any like hard evidence, so it's not like you're going to give us a spoiler. So just let us know what you think.
Yeah, just let us know the theories. We never know
Um,
what they're going to do in Star Wars.
Yeah.
We had our theories about episode 8 and we were all wrong.
in the worst way. Yeah, and if
In
you,
the
if you
worst possible
did
way.
like this, check out our Star Wars playlist of stuff. We talk about the prequels, sequels, originals. We talk about Mando season 1 and 2, and we talk about this. So make sure to check that out. We're gonna get back to covering the King Arthur show, Winter King.
Winter King.
More things down the line too, Outlander, stuff like that. We'll probably cover season 3 of Mando. We didn't just love it as much, so we didn't jump into it.
Yeah.
But we'll probably do that maybe before like season 4 comes out or something. Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
let us know if there's anything else you want to see or
totally.
all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Well,
But anyway, it's like we always say, "A yip baba dee da boop, a yip baba dee da boop, a yip baba dee da boop."
boop, boop,
All
boop.
right. Nope, that's it.
Yeah. Bye.